March the 10th. It's 6 o'clock according to the digital clock. So, anybody want to approve the agenda, or you want to
I
make
have an amendment to the
additions?
agenda. I'd like to add to new business, old business someplace.
Okay,
Just an update on data center planning.
okay.
So I keep seeing it not on the agenda, so I'd love to
That's
see it
okay.
on the agenda, so.
Okay, let's talk about it after the comprehensive plan focus. Is that okay?
That'd be great.
Okay, we'll make that C.
I move to approve the amended agenda.
Is there a second?
Support.
Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Thank you. Anyone got a conflict of interest with any of the agenda items? No? Okay, I got public comment, but it's Mallory Building, so we're gonna have a public hearing for you, so we'll deal with it then. Minutes of the February 24th meeting.
Move to approve the minutes of the February 24th meeting as presented.
Here a second?
Second.
Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Hearing none, we'll move on. Communications, Miles.
None at this time.
Okay, let's open them, or let's give the staff report on the Mallory Building project.
Yeah. All right, let me go ahead and scroll to it. All right, so, as the planning commission members may be aware, if you saw in your packet, we conducted an agency review for this site. We also conducted a zoning review for this proposed development. I did get some late comments from the drain commission, but they seem to be in line with what their comments were last time around. And we still have the condition in place that the drain commission standards have to be met and approved prior to the issuance of a building permit, so we feel comfortable moving forward with our recommendation as it stands. There were a couple outstanding items, from the zoning review perspective, such as a, photometric plan and, explanation of lighting on site. Not something that is uncommon to be left off of site plans. I've always feel comfortable doing an administrative review of that as long as I have the condition in place, which we've, set on the proposed set of conditions. With that being said, our recommendation is to move the project forward with a conditional approval of the site plan and a recommended approval for the special use permit for the various new land uses that are being proposed here. Any questions?
Anybody got any questions of Miles? Okay, hearing none, let's open the public meeting. Can I get a motion to open the public meeting?
Motion to open the public meeting.
Is there a second? Those in favor say aye. Aye. Meeting's open. Gentlemen, you have the,
Chase Mallory, Mallory Building Contractors, and
Bill Jacobac, landowner.
yeah, so 12,000 square foot building, we were back, presented this in 2022, back with a new use. 3/4 of it'll be a training facility for tumbling and cheer, not like, assembly or tournaments, just solely training, so you come in, do your training, leave, and then the other, 1/4 of it is a comprehensive training facility, so it'll be like basketball training, net team sports training, stuff like that. So again, personal, private training, not a tournament where you're gonna have mass assembly in there and, hosted tournaments. Anything else to add? Any questions?
anybody got any questions?
Oh, I don't know if this is gonna be your question, but, it might be, cause we spoke about this, but it's probably worth noting that we did get provided a maintenance and access agreement for the shared drive and some overflow parking provisions, so that was something that was brought up in the introduction, something that the development firm, complied with.
Go ahead, George.
Also, want to address some type of landscaping or buffering, either a fence or some trees, to go between, even though looks like it's gonna be going away, if something changes in the future, I take it that when you pull up to the building, you'd be facing north. Is that right?
When you
If
pull up
somebody
to,
dropped somebody off, you'd be
You'd be-
facing north?
you'd be facing south.
You'd be
South?
facing south.
Yeah, so especially in that case, I know we can't on the lot to the left, but for that lot, if we could get some buffering, for lighting on them apartments, there is some old stuff there, but it's a little sparse.
Right now with no foliage on it yet, it looks pretty bad, but I think I have it in my hand, but yeah, there's a pretty thick tree line there as is. And then also the existing building will block a lot of it to that south, so,
I'm requesting that you put up a couple, 3 or 4 trees to block the lights from going in them apartments, or a fence.
By trees, you're referring to conifers that.
Conifers, or something that would block the light, you know, I love it, don't have to be a 50-foot tree, but something that could, if it was closer to the building, then it wouldn't have to be as tall, or a fence, you know?
that's, I mean, we're not opposed to it by any means, but that's something that we can, you guys go through administratively and check it out, cause I mean, there's a ton of trees in that tree line already, so I mean, I don't know if adding a couple more trees is gonna do exactly what you're,
I think the
wanting.
grade too, as you're driving in to the green building there, that grade drops down, so those lights are going down further, they're not going up towards the unit that's in the back. So the grade, if you take a look at that on the plan, so like Chase said, that, there's a lot of trees there, I'm not sure, we'd have to bring in at least 20 or 30-foot trees in order to make that bigger and more dense.
Right,
in that
I don't
back
think it's gonna
line.
make a difference right now.
So it'd only be right here is where you're
Yes.
thinking?
Yes. Just a few trees, that, you know, I'm not asking to plant 30-foot trees. Even if you planted some small trees that would grow in the future, at least it would address the, you know, the future, as you guys grow, they will grow, maybe.
Okay.
It's not gonna block your frontage or your, you know, signage or anything like that. It's just simply to address lights flickering and going into them apartments. I mean, if I was in an apartment, lights were shining in, it's probably gonna be minimal. But if we can address, you know,
Yeah, I mean,
be
yeah, I
good
think
neighbors,
it'll definitely be minimal just with the existing, but yeah, we can.
This is a special use permit, right? So we
Yes.
have, we have the ability to.
if you guys agree with me. Yeah.
Specifications on buffering, right, which is.
Yes.
Well within our purview.
Yes.
Correct.
So trees are probably the least expensive way that we can offer some buffering assistance to that residential facility.
Okay,
I'm just asking for a minimal ask.
just so I
We
can.
could ask for more.
Just so I can get the condition right as it's, because we'll add that to the list. So what I'm hearing, and anybody correct me if I'm wrong, conifer trees added to the southwest
Boundary.
corner on the southern property line of the site. How many conifer trees, or you can name the number, or you can say 2 conifer trees, you can say 3 conifer trees, or you can leave it more open-ended. You could use language like, establish a number of conifer trees to the point where buffering is achieved, or screening is achieved.
That would be wonderful. Yeah, I don't see it being a problem, you know, like in the very corner by where the building is, where it's gonna impede your building, but at least, you know, and I can't ask you
But
to
like
do
he-
anything on the other side.
But like, there,
Yeah,
You could
Exactly.
see a car driving south toward that building. I mean, that could be an issue already, just with the way that it is currently set up, right?
correct. And it's shining right at the middle of the apartments, or not middle, but,
Okay.
and there's a lot of stuff there. But
Okay, so-
this time of year, I mean, them lights going through them trees is just like flick, 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 flick.
Yeah, no, I agree. I've lived
know.
in that situation, so.
Just to be a nice neighbor, right?
No, that's fine.
Absolutely.
Like mutual dignity and respect, right?
So are you happy with Miles's language?
I'm happy with that. I think they know what I'm asking.
yeah, so we got the notes, we can add it to our set of
Do I
recommended
need to make a
conditions.
motion? I make a motion that we add that to the, do I need to make a motion?
No, just when the motion is made, if a motion is made tonight, you would just say,
Okay.
I make a motion to approve the site plan as presented with the set of recommended conditions, including the one discussed tonight.
Okay,
You could make it now.
I do make it now with
Or do you have
Miles'
to close
wording.
the meeting first?
Oh, we do.
Yeah, that's true, you would have to close the meeting.
Technically, we're supposed to close
Is
the
there
meeting.
anything else you guys want to?
You got anything else?
No, I'm good, no.
I got one question. Can you go back to the site plan?
Yes.
It shows the layout.
Yes.
On the south side of the building, it shows parking spots in there. Did we count those as,
We counted those for parking. There's gonna be two bay doors, but we
Yeah.
did count those as spots.
how much what's the distance between those two buildings?
40 feet?
Oh, is it that much?
It's pretty long.
Okay.
So with
So-
those
so
park,
So those lines are longer than.
they're not accurate. Well, you can see they're not all,
The first one might be right.
the first one looks right, the rest of them went a little long.
Because normally for parking spot, you need a 20-foot parking space and
19.
and 25 feet turning aisle to get in there.
Yeah,
So it's usually about 45 feet, so 40 feet is close.
it's close, we're getting there.
Put a sign up, small cars only.
Will do.
Yeah, no, crew cab pickups with. any
I would
crew cab.
imagine staff would probably park back there and then
Yeah.
people visiting will park up here.
What's your target date for construction?
May, start.
Oh, nice.
Good luck.
Hopefully the weather stays, like spring.
I think we got 11 degrees is in our future.
Yeah.
Snow on Monday, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, possibility.
I move to close the public meeting.
Support.
Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Meeting's closed. Thank you, gentlemen.
George, you have a,
Motion, I move to approve the,
Site plan.
site plan with conditions and the new condition added tonight.
support.
Hey, let's do a roll call
Roll
vote.
call, sounds good. Let me get my list here. All right, Vice Chair Baker,
Yes.
Commissioner Crainer,
Yes,
Chair Reich,
Yes,
Trustee Hagerman,
Yes,
Commissioner Severie,
Yes.
Commissioner Almaridge,
Yes.
Commissioner Coulter.
Yes.
motion's passed. Okay, thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hope you have a great evening.
Yep, I'll be in touch, guys, thanks.
Okay, Miles, you got some comprehensive plan
Well, can
update?
we have a quick recess if that's okay, Chair?
Oh, that's right, I forgot about the recess, I'm sorry. Yeah, we're gonna take a 5-minute recess, or plus or minus a few minutes for Miles to set up for the plan,
If that's okay.
comprehensive plan.
Do we need a motion for that? I always forget.
No, we don't need a motion for that.
All right, 5-minute recess. All right, thanks, guys. We'll be right back.
Yeah, when have we ever become that formal?
Okay. Just give us a second.
But if we do, I make it and Jason seconds it.
Oh, come on, fellas, let's get reasonable.
Procedure, so those motions get done quickly and done.
So Jason, tell us about
what?
your experience with the groundwater stuff.
Oh, it was a webinar, offered by Eagle, so it was a basic overview of groundwater in the state of Michigan. Various aspects of where groundwater is available versus not available throughout the state, obviously it's a plentiful region. And then it went into a little bit of the dynamics of what happens when you tap into the groundwater. Didn't get into much detail in terms of industrial uses.
Oh, like
It's
data
really just a
centers?
purview, what's that?
Like data centers?
Like data centers or, even like farms, right? So,
Yeah. Oh,
or
yeah,
golf courses.
Oh,
Golf
golf
courses in our area is pretty,
huge, yeah.
and so.
when I need to be,
But it was a free training, and so, having gone from no training whatsoever to at least a little bit.
Yeah.
I mean, certainly Brett would have been bored, but at least for me, it's like, I learned enough to, at least be curious,
Yeah, curious.
dangerous, right?
Well,
Annoying at least.
the well drillers I know has claimed it's gone down like 17 feet or something like that over the last decade.
and you see just like all.
Yeah,
So that means it's going down faster than we're replenishing it. Do we have any plan for,
Yeah.
You know, they didn't get into the
Yeah.
political.
well, I don't know is that political?
Yeah, that's political.
Oh, for Pete's sake.
They didn't get into riparian rights, they didn't get into a lot of the fun issues that, you know.
Yeah. I'm in a staff meeting when I was working. It's embarrassing that some of my colleagues
Climate change.
screw around. It is nothing important.
We've had climate change as long as I've been alive.
Not according to some people.
But,
Not according to the
yeah, we
current
definitely.
Well, it depends on what you're gonna call climate change.
Generations of that.
The ice is growing faster up north.
Yeah.
It's caused by something. Too many wildlife.
Yeah, well, absolutely. Absolutely.
Water's going down, and it's caused by something.
It's either they're
You
pumping
figure
it
it out, I
out.
don't care.
Are you talking groundwater now?
That's funny.
They talk about this, I read this, and what the heck is that? Red bed, bedrock, yellow.
Yeah,
That's probably a red shale.
It is, I do kind of appreciate having.
You know that,
all
right?
of these.
Red bed geology.
When is it?
Limestone and shale out here, it may not be red, but it's shale. Red
So-
shales are high in iron.
So I pulled a whole bunch of, DEQ.
And then Joe, you're good on battery and everything, or should I get?
Reports. And like, I mapped out and created a spreadsheet of all, like, the geography.
Were you bored?
For myself and my neighbors, and like, there's no consistency across. And so it's like, you know, blue-gray shale, you know, mine's like purple shale with some like, you know, striped, you know.
That's a new one.
That was an older one. Newer one was, unknown lithology.
I just know we had to do this.
What's that? That's a new one. I've never heard of that one.
I have no idea.
I have no idea what
No
it
idea.
is.
I just wanna make sure my, like, well isn't like below or up, you know, higher than my neighbors. Well, because I mean, I want them to run out of water before I do.
Neighbors are out of water, I'm gonna have to lower mine.
Or all the contamination you dump will hit theirs first before it gets to yours.
Yes, right? Or the unlicensed, waste transfer facility down the road from me.
Okay.
It is
they're
in a
lower than you,
different
they're gonna
watershed
suck all your
than you,
water.
Jason.
Which one is that?
Oh, yeah, no, I want them to get higher than me.
That was quick so far, so.
But apparently there's like a bedrock or something that mitigates.
Yeah,
Are you on tap it?
supposedly anyhow.
Probably for years. They just probably dumped trash in those buildings. Not here, no, but it's here in here.
So where's it gonna get the water, it runs from Lake George down through.
Right next to the cattle stuff.
Guess it went into standby mode or something.
Because we're in the Saginaw
Area,
Park.
and I-
Yeah.
All right, Chair, we're good whenever.
You're good? Okay, fellas, let's call the recess to an end here.
And I live
Move to open the meeting
Okay.
to
I read right by your-
deliberation.
Now, we're just gonna call the recess ending.
I told my colleague, my counterpart in Nancy to go check it out. And
Where's your gavel?
they went and looked at it and basically walked away. 'cause it was too much work.
Okay, go ahead.
Just don't break the handle.
All right,
Yep.
Chair, now that you've called the meeting back to
Yep.
order, do you wanna kick it? You want me to introduce the topic?
Yes, would you please?
Okay. All right, so obviously Giffords and Webster is here. They are consultants on the comp plan. Everybody knows that. They're gonna present a myriad of information tonight. They've worked hard to put together many sheets. I think, in my view, and they can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think what we're seeking tonight is feedback on high-level topics, themes, direction, guidance on, are we going in the right direction, are we not going in the right direction? Obviously, there are, I think there's some like 70 pages included in the packet tonight related to this material. We know that there are graph errors, spelling errors, and we wanna know about all those. But if we just looked at spelling errors tonight, we'd be here for a very long time.
Yes.
This information, the majority of it, you should all see in 2 weeks coming back to you refined. So if you find a spelling error, if you find a chart referencing a graph and that isn't accurate, we need to know about it, but just give me a marked up copy. I've already received one marked up copy, I've received a email redline copy, so just, we need that, just keep sending it to me. I'll provide it to the consultants, they'll refine, and we'll get it back in 2 weeks. With that being said, Chair.
As deadline for the marked up copies, 2 weeks?
Yeah, if, it would actually be quicker though, because we'll have the packet together in a week and a half, so like a week would really be good.
Yeah, if you could get them to Miles by, what, Sunday of this week?
Yeah, I mean, I don't wanna rush anyone, but, you know, we're trying to do
Yeah.
2 week turnarounds, and this will be largely how most of the rest of the spring and summer will play out. The consultants will be bringing us materials in the first meeting of the month, and then the second meeting of the month, we'll be seeing those materials refined. And we'll keep leapfrogging our way through this comprehensive plan, kinda through the spring and summer. And the goal is hopefully by fall, we'll have more of a finished product, and we'll be moving into kind of our open house phase, where we start to re-engage the public again with a more finished product, but not something that's done, something that we're still working on, but it's not typical in the planning industry to start holding open houses and inviting the public in until you have something to show them.
Correct.
Are we
typical-
using the term comprehensive plan or master plan?
As for our township policy here and how we've always viewed these types of documents, we will be using the term comprehensive plan. The consultants I've noticed have made a habit of using the term master plan, but that's just because in the planning industry, that's still more widely used.
Comprehensive master plan.
Yeah, throw it all together, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
cause that was my question.
The title of this plan on the website will be a comprehensive plan.
Okay, but in the document itself, can we change every master to comprehensive?
We should. If you're seeing the
Okay.
word master, we gotta change it.
Cause it's many
We,
times.
we will do a
Okay.
function search and replace it.
So you don't need me to mark up every page then?
Please feel free.
No, I don't.
I know the teacher in you.
Is there a problem with the word master?
I don't even wanna go into it.
Yeah, let's make it consistent, though.
That's not true.
Let's try and make it consistent throughout.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Consistency's key.
Right.
All right.
Okay, so, where do you wanna start, Miles?
It's your pleasure, Chair, on how you want to proceed. Obviously, the consultants are here tonight. They have a presentation they'd like to show you, but if you'd
Okay.
like to discuss first or kick it to them, however you want to.
Okay, let's go ahead and give us your spiel, sir.
Okay. Thank you all for having us. So tonight, last time we introduced, the kind of focus areas for discussion. And we're gonna go through each of them tonight, and essentially we've got a few questions to ask you all about each of those areas, to get your guidance on, where we wanna take, those topics in the, master plan update, comprehensive plan, I suppose, update. That's gonna give us the guidance we need to get some draft chapters together for you, to look at and give us feedback on. So we're gonna be talking about natural features and sustainability tonight, transportation, economic development, housing, and, some of the target areas for, development, in the township, specifically 3 of them. And again, we've got some questions in here, for discussion after each topic. So it's not gonna be a presentation, then discussion, it'll just be a short presentation discussion is the format. Starting out with natural features and sustainability. So obviously that's a key part of the township's identity, economic engine. Thinking about sustainability also can extend into areas of the township where development is going to occur though, of course, that's not just the preserved areas. So what will those look like and how will they function? That's what we're thinking about. We do have this goal from the last master plan with one objective underneath it. Protecting critical environmental areas, developing new environmental protection methods, with an emphasis on greenfield preservation and stormwater management. So the objective under that is to develop policies and ordinances related to various environmental topics. we did go through the public input at our last meeting. I put some of that back in here though, just to remind us what our people are saying about these topics as we think about our discussion. So when we ask people to rank sustainability and resiliency efforts in order of priority, maintaining ecosystems and biodiversity came out first. And then some of the other things that came out high or in support of that, such as preserving and planting trees. And then we also have responding to public health emergencies and preparing for extreme weather events. Those all really go hand in hand because if you're preserving natural areas and natural systems, those are have evolved over time to be resilient to extreme weather and things. So it's going to help you in your built environment. We do have some maps, which were actually in the draft that you received, of some of our water resources. You can see that the township is in 5 different watersheds. We've got a wetland inventory from the state in the center on this slide here. So you can see there is a lot of wetland and then some substantial areas of soil that include wetland soils. And then finally, we have some flood zones, really concentrated in the northeastern and northern portion of the township. Some of those are in some of those preserved natural areas as well. And then one of the other things that we want to look at here is we've got our soil classifications and our tree canopy cover. The middle map is prime farmland, so you can see there's a real big concentration of prime farmland in the northwestern portion of the township, that's west of the Bath Village area. And that coincides with this this soil classification as well. You can see those maps are pretty similar in terms of where concentrations of certain colors come up.
Do we have that map in our packet? Sorry to interrupt.
It is, yes.
What page is it?
40 and 45.
Oh, okay.
And then we also have tree canopy cover, so you can see where you're most forested. It's not a coincidence that some of the most prime farmland is some of the least forested land in the township because it's being farmed. And then some of the natural preservation areas are some of the areas with the most trees.
Is there a reason we don't have a map of the DNR properties that are in Bath Township? Or at least if they're, I didn't see one.
Yeah, if you didn't hear, page 47 of the document should include those, as the community facility map.
So the question I have is.
Oh, okay, I didn't see it, thank you.
I
Thank you.
very much appreciate the detailed maps. The people who are going to be using the comprehensive plan are elected officials who come from various backgrounds, right? Not many will be versed in these types of maps. And so the question is, how do we move from having a lot of maps to how do we make decisions from those maps? How did the maps inform the intersection between our comprehensive goal of preserving our natural habitats? I mean, do we just look at the maps and say we don't want the maps to change? You know, where does SMART's planning intersect with those? You know, I can, you know, make a whole bunch of guesses as to what I want, but that will differ from Ray's, and that's gonna differ from Kate and all the other board of trustees.
Sure, let's take an example, I guess. Let's look at the prime farmland example. So, we know that farmland is a part of the economic mix of the township, part of the township's heritage as well. Historically, there's been farming here. And we know where the biggest concentration is, and that's on the western side of the township there, west of the Bath Village area. When we're thinking about our future land use planning, and thinking about where we're going to try to direct development, one of the things that we want to keep in mind is where that land is, and we're trying not to compromise that land's future as part of that economic mix of the township. So we're probably not going to direct any intensive development into that area. That's going to be planned for rural and agriculture. And it works the same way with some of the other categories as well. And when you're looking at your wetlands and things like that, you also know that that's going to be a constraint on your ability to build somewhere. So you really don't want to try to drive a bunch of development toward an area that's very heavily soaked with wetlands, because that's going to cause all kinds of problems in the future. If you remove the wetlands, obviously that's got its own universe of problems that comes with it. But just the simple challenge of trying to develop something there with those wetlands in the way is also going to be an issue.
So may I take this a little to just another level of concreteness? So later on tonight, we're gonna talk about data centers, and this is an ongoing conversation across state, across the nation,
Sure.
right? So would the comprehensive plan be a place where we would put some clear language about preservation of prime farmlands, and very specifically saying that, we are interested in protecting prime farmlands from industrial scale development along the lines of renewable energies, data centers, and other elements. And part of what I'm thinking is that, would that be a strategy that would provide us with liability protection in the case of, because it's embedded within our master plan, if in the state of a developer really wants to develop along, a particular corridor. So you see where I'm going with this?
Sure, yeah. Yeah, you're thinking exactly in the right direction.
Okay.
Yes, that is absolutely something that this master plan can and should cover. Because, I guess going back to the original point is that prime farmland is important. We do want to preserve it. We have many reasons for wanting to preserve it. One of the principal threats to that prime farmland would be a large single user that comes in and occupies all of it at once.
Large
So,
user
yeah.
with a lot of money.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
So yes, that's something that we should embed in your master plan, because it is a priority for you. And we should note that it's a priority, so that when something does potentially come down the pipeline, you've got something in place that says, look, this is not really what we're looking to do here. We have all these findings in our master plan that say, hey, this is important to us for these reasons. We don't want to go down this road with this land.
Thank you.
So I guess that brings us to the questions that we've got for you for discussion here. So the first goal of your master plan deals with building a sense of community in Bath Township and a sense of community identity. So as we're thinking about that, we want you to be thinking about what the role of the natural environment in building that sense of community is. So when we go back to goal 1 and we're thinking about how it could perhaps be refined for the master plan update, we can roll some of that into what we're writing for that goal and the objectives that come under it. So I guess when you think about what would bring someone to the township from outside the township, what's the first thing you think about?
From the natural environment perspective,
From any perspective,
Oh,
really, but I think it's probably going to head toward the natural environment. most
I just
likely.
didn't know if we were like, within this topic, I want.
Yeah, you can go outside the topic if you feel you need to. But, and what's the draw? What brings people here?
I mean, don't you think, I mean, I'm just trying to get the conversation going here, but like from a natural, as somebody that's not from here, again, like I was saying, I mean, you guys got a lot of cool natural environments, like one you have Park Lake and you have a beach on it, and you do have a boat launch, and then I know a big draw for us when we first moved out here was the Rose Lake game area. It's like pretty decent, like day hiking available for free to anybody, easily accessible.
Hunting, golf courses, draw a lot of people to Bath
A
Township.
lot of cool golf courses, so.
who are
Yes.
not- Don't live in Bath Township.
And during the public session, I mean, people talked about the fact that we had, what, one of the first state sightings of a cougar, to which the consultant made a joke out of it, which I'm still irritated by. But, I mean, it still stands, right? This is a natural environment, right? And, you know, I myself moved out here because I wanted to live out in the country. Rural, yeah. I mean, the fact that I can drive through, you know, immense cornfields, in my 12-minute commute to MSU. I mean, that's amazing, right?
It does also come with dirt roads. Necessary to go there, I think.
Gravel road.
The hits just keep
I
on
chose to
coming.
live on a dirt road, now I complain about it all the time.
Well, and don't forget about the eagles, you know, we got eagles in the township.
Sandhill Crane's up the wazoo.
We got
Yeah,
sand,
but
they
they
are
are-
everywhere, we've seen
Yeah.
some sandhill cranes in our day driving around.
Sure.
But these are all the things that people like
Yeah.
cite, right? We
It's
had a,
amazing.
like a really vivid conversation during the public session about these elements.
I think that is in my opinion, like a not marketed enough gem of Bath Township is the access to natural resources at little or no cost to the resident, widely available.
When I was reading through this, that's exactly the thought that came to my mind, is like Rose Lake and places like that. How many people even know that's available and what you can do there?
The one that
Never heard
always,
anything about it.
the one that always shocks me, and I know Karen can speak to this too, is our Bath Township Park that we have on Robson Road. No one, when the whole trail conversation, you're like, well, the township doesn't own trails.
Yeah, we do.
We have like a 10-acre park maintained weekly, full of great trails.
Let's not forget the Park Lake Trail.
I wanna go there.
So, I mean, to your question, the challenge is, how do you build a community around something that
Buried, sorry.
is- No, help
This is
yourself.
very stirring monologue.
I mean,
I thought it was like they were playing it off the stage.
I thought too.
Can you tell I work in a noisy environment?
right?
All right, I apologize.
But to your question, how do you build a community around something that is very like individually oriented, right? You know, these are things that are privately enjoyed. And I don't know what the correct answer is. I mean, we have, the Audubon Society, I think, has like facilities, like maybe it's north in Victor Township. But, you know,
There's one up there, yeah, but this.
The
There is
Quarry
one, but,
Marsh Place, they have the
Well,
bird
there's
banding
a bird
station.
banding place too, I read.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's
it
like
is, yeah.
Yeah,
the old muck farm.
who knows about that?
Peacock?
I got a question, if you don't mind. We're kind of casual, and Karen's here tonight. Could we just include her in the conversation informally?
I mean, she lives here.
She lives here, but
Should we just
we really didn't have an open meeting, but it was my intention that there would be dialogue going on. And as long as she's here, can we just include her in the
I'll support.
conversation?
You're the chair.
Well, I know, but I'm one vote. I'm just one vote. I'm just one vote.
Can we, yeah, you wanna make a motion to open?
Do you wanna do it?
Move to open meeting now.
I'll second that.
Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, thank you. Meeting's open, Karen.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thanks for coming.
Well, now you gotta talk. I So,
Listen to you talk.
So is the question how to bring people here to like visit for the day, or how to bring people here to set up a business, or how to bring people here to live here?
all
All of them? Well, because I think there's kind of different answers to those.
I agree, Kate, yes.
What, the question is, what is the role of the natural environment in building that sense of community? I would say the role is key. But how do you expand on that, though?
I mean, do we have to? We have to protect it, right? That's the.
The first thing you gotta do is protect
And
it.
that is key, we have to protect this asset.
Yeah,
Right, and that comes down to some of the things that you'll ultimately do in the regulatory sphere following on from a plan is you'll be putting in place, you already have put it in place to protect some of these, natural assets, and you might develop more, and it would come down to the conversation we were having earlier about a large single user perhaps using a lot of that land. If protection of that is a major goal of the township, then you've got some serious weight behind any decision you make to protect that land from something like that.
So I also heard two comments, one from Ray and one from Miles. Are people even aware of what the resources that we have? So to me, that indicates a communications and marketing plan that clarifies that. And part of that is signage, which we've been talking about upgrading for years. And then, I can think about hiring a marketing firm to, throw out some ads out there, like, why not live in Bath? It's not the way that we do things, but it could be something that we do.
So bullet point one is protecting our natural assets, bullet point two is marketing and communicating those assets. I'm just trying to.
Do we need to market and communicate?
I
I already can't market Park Lake Ramp right now.
But everyone knows about Park Lake Ramp. I would agree that no one knows about Robson Road Park.
I agree.
oh, yeah, I would say
So
that's
you don't market what everyone, you market the unknown,
right.
targeted marketing.
Or we market Rose Lake. It's not our property, but hell, why not? We can still benefit from it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
agreed. And I don't think everyone knows about that.
There's a rattlesnake preserve over there.
I didn't know that.
No, I didn't know
But,
that.
Wiswaster's farm.
My wife's there, she'll never know that.
Okay,
Which
Go
farm?
there for the ticks.
and then just to keep it rolling, because just by the way,
Yes.
we are on slide 9 of 54.
Thank you.
The second question on my take, and again, I'm just trying to get the conversation started. How much further would we like to be able to take our landscaping standards in order to promote better on-site storm management and filtration? So right now, at least every development in my time here has been, they must maintain on-site drainage.
Yes,
If there is some inability to do so, then that's a thing, like it's something that we have to review. The only site that came up with the inability to do so in my time was the larger arm fastener facility. And in that case, they were draining south and had to gain all of the permits through Eagle and agreements with MDOT to drain onto
Yeah.
the MDOT I-69 right away. But our preference and requirements, I guess, by the way, always lean towards on-site water capture.
Sure,
So I don't know how much stricter we can get in that area is what I'm saying.
I'm thinking in part about, perhaps incentives for things like, swales and things that would be part of the landscape of the site, that instead of having like one large detention pond, you might be able to distribute your capture and filtration around the site a little bit more, or, and it might not necessarily be a requirement, more of an incentive in
How you-
regulations.
Just on, you guys see more of the stuff than we do, how we built in incentives in the past for landscape, like one thing that exists in the ordinance right now is, the planning commission has the ability to reduce parking standards. The trade-off that has always been proposed to the developer is they have to provide extra landscaping and extra infiltration to get a reduction. So is that the way that you've seen that incentivized?
That's one way, yeah, there's a bunch of different ways you can do things, but yes, that is one good example of the kind of thing that, you might consider doing. But yeah, it's really a matter of, you know, you can put it all in a tank under a parking lot, you can put it all in one big pond on a site, or you could do other things on a site, that can help, with your stormwater management. It's just a matter of, you know, what your ultimate preference is as a community. If you would like to see kind of more naturalistic landscapes or things like that.
Rain
or-
gardens,
Yeah, right, exactly. that kind of thing.
toxicity remediation plants. I mean, what are you planning commission thoughts? So right now where it stands from a regulatory point of view, we're, at least on paper, it's hard to know, there always is a difference between engineering plans and reality, we all know
Yep.
that.
Oh,
But
yeah.
at least on the engineering plans, we're showing them capturing on-site water. What's the planning commission's thoughts on more distribution of water capture throughout the site, or features like rain gardens?
One of the issues that I noticed is that the original thought is really good for capturing on-site stormwater, but then the issue becomes the maintenance of that facility, because as the vegetation dies and fills in and so forth, it mitigates the penetration, and it also mitigates the capacity of the facility to hold that water. So then it becomes more or less non-functional at some point, or at least compromise the functionality of it. How do you require that that be maintained in a usable manner?
I mean, ultimately, I guess the stick is regulation. If you've got some sort of maintenance requirement. So if you've got underground detention that's under a parking lot, for instance, it has to be vacuumed out every now and then so the silt doesn't build up in it
Yeah.
over the capacity. If you have a pond, first of all, you know, things like Phragmites might grow in it, and you've gotta be removing those, because yes, you're correct, they will go to the bottom, they will build up on the bottom. After 20 years, the pond's not quite as deep as it once was.
Right.
And yeah, things won't penetrate as well as they did. So yeah, it is a matter of making sure that people are going in and doing those kinds of maintenance. If you've got a pipe that's going from a forebay into the larger pond, clearing out that pipe every now and then so you don't have gravel and things building up in it, that's all essential to making sure that those things work over time. And it would be most likely embedded in an engineering or general ordinance to have a maintenance schedule for those things and give the township some sort of mechanism for ensuring that maintenance is occurring over time.
So Joe, I think that probably is what you just stated, is your answer to the second question there. Because we are requiring on the front end, in theory, this, but is the maintenance and inspections happening? I would say no.
Then
No.
how do we pay for
I
it?
mean, we do it on a reactionary basis because we're a small staff. You know, Myers parking lot floods, I call the drain commission, me and John Morrison meet out there, we're like, yep, this hasn't been cleaned, we talk to the manager, they clean it up, and that's about our bandwidth right now.
Right.
Sure. I guess the problem becomes is if you have a huge rain event and all those systems that have a little bit of maintenance backlog on them all come up at once, then it becomes a really big issue. So yeah, trying to get you something you can work with to be a little more proactive on that, but obviously, we know that like every community, there's administrative constraints.
Yeah.
So you have to be sensitive to those.
But that doesn't mean, your question, your statement still stands.
You put it in
Put
there.
it in there. Maybe we'll get a grant out.
But this stormwater management is two things. One you're talking about infiltration, the other one is flood prevention.
Sure, yeah.
And so I think we've got these big systems going in. I think if they fail, there's gonna be another layer, which is the detention pond. I mean, the one that works great, as far as I'm concerned, is not in Bath Township, but it's off State Road. just west of Chandler Road. In dry weather, that ditch is dry. When it rains that we just had, that water's right up to the top almost, and you look at the Remy Chandler drain, it's got almost no water in it. There's
Right.
open hell right there. And that slowly seeps out into the drain, and goes away. So I think we need to build some of those into what we're doing, to kind of fail-safe thing for some of these things for the infiltration. Because eventually the infiltration is gonna fail if we don't maintain it.
Sure. Yeah, thinking about regional management as well, and that can actually happen on different scales. So you can think about, you know, on a metropolitan scale about stormwater management, and flood prevention. But you can also think on like a district scale. If you've got a small neighborhood or something, you can have each individual site have some of its own, you know, holding capacity, and then it goes somewhere else to a larger facility if there's problems with that holding capacity on those individual sites during an incident.
So is stormwater management, is that a section that falls under goal 1? Right, because I'm feeling a disconnect between those two bullet points. One is kind of a sense of community, the other is, well, more of a,
Right.
Administrative
The-
responsibility.
The goals are somewhat intertwined, you know, in terms of their, the objectives that fall under each of them. So goal 1 is talking about building that sense of community, and, then we're trying to find an interface between that and the natural environment, which I think is goal 2, I wanna say. And then under that natural features goal, we have the stormwater objective as well, so we're trying to speak to that too. It's really about how they all knit together to make a community.
Well, Jason, like you watched today, you can manage that surface water to promote additional groundwater too.
I mean, it's hugely important. We've got to keep our aquifers up.
Instead of
Are
just
you
running it
familiar
off
with what-
somewhere or into another sewer system where it
You
runs
remember
off.
what Ingham County did in the Tower area? That big project they did, they've got rain gardens along both sides of the streets. I don't know how it gets maintained.
What road is that? They had a grant to maintain it for the first 5 years, that's like pretty well known in the
I
planning.
don't know if it was a grant or whether he assessed it.
They had a grant
He
for the
assessed it for
first
residents.
5 years, and then after, they had so much neighborhood buy-in, it kind of self-maintains now, the neighborhoods have bought.
This is the Groesbeck neighborhood?
No,
No.
Tower, off North Lansing Road. If you drive down that road, some of the rain gardens look good, some of them mow right down to like this tall.
Yeah, because the neighbors are
The
like,
neighbors don't
"Ah,
know,
I'm
so
gonna
they
do
mow
this."
right, they're gone. So I don't know what you do about that.
It's this road, Birch Road Drive.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay, well, let's move
Okay,
on.
yep.
The next topic is transportation. So obviously you have your arterial roads, which are kind of the backbone of transportation in the township. It's how people get from their neighborhood to anywhere else. But we also need to think about creating an environment where transportation alternatives are made available, in the parts of the township where growth is going to occur, and that we're prioritizing safety everywhere. So providing those alternatives is one element of providing safety, but of course there's others. And then when we don't own our roads, there's kind of an additional layer of complexity there, because we have to be working with the county agency in order to make sure that our priorities are being addressed. So we do have this goal under transportation, create a safe and efficient transportation system for the movement of goods and people with added opportunities for non-motorized transportation. And there's one objective under that goal. Develop and implement plans and projects to develop a well-established multimodal transportation system.
You know, that's a great idea, but you gotta have a certain density of population to be able to afford to create that environment. How do
So-
we get to that point?
Yeah, there's a few different things to think about there. One is the purpose of your non-motorized transportation system. So these kind of off-road trails, we'll call them, they might be parallel to a road, they might run somewhere in their own right of way. they can have multiple purposes, and it depends a little bit on the network that they're connected to. So I think the first thing we tend to think of when we think of a multi-use trail is recreation. It's
Yeah.
a great way to get out, and you've got a place to ride your bike, you've got a place to go for a run, you've got a place to walk your dog. And it's safe and it's pleasant because it's surrounded by trees and things. And the other thing that we can think about too, though, is actually building a system that can serve that recreation function, but also can serve practical functions. It can get someone from one neighborhood to another. It can get someone from their home to a place where they can shop or a place where they work. So I think the first purpose is a lot easier to fulfill in a relatively low-density place, because there's kind of a universe of money that you can access for recreational purposes that you can put into these facilities. But you should always have that second function in mind when you're designing these facilities, because you can kind of kill two birds with one stone there. You can get your recreational facility, but you can also provide a practical pathway for people to kind of do the business that they need to do on a day-to-day basis with the same facility. Okay, I'll actually go. So we do have, a non-motorized network in town right now. So obviously you're seeing trails in parks with these green, and then you've got your sidewalks in some of these neighborhoods. And then over here, there's quite a few little pathways within these developments. What you often don't see, or you might see on one side and not the other, is kind of that backbone connector. We have these arterial roads, but there's not the equivalent of that for some of the non-motorized facilities.
I have some comments.
Go ahead.
Sure.
So we recently had a conversation about economic development where we talked about roads. So, but I don't want to start there. I want to start with something I've been thinking about actually today. So Chandler's going to go under construction, right? And they're going to close it down, right? Which is going to.
Not completely.
Not completely?
Yeah. That got all kind of scuttled because of MDOT's work on 127. We were forced to keep it open because of the state's, I blame the state, obviously.
Well, so there's that, but then there's also gas prices, right? So I'm sitting there like, I should buy like an electric bike, blah, 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 blah. But then the question is like, how do I get from where I live to MSU, which this is all very personal to me, right? So, but once you get to State Road, there is whatever the trail is. There's a paved trail that goes all the way to Old Town through Lansing, right?
Yeah.
Right.
What is the best pathway for me to get from my house to there? And I have no idea. Part of me is like, do I go through your subdivision, the golf course place?
When they have
What's that?
sorry, I'm not trying to jump in, but they have a lot of people. We get a lot of bikers that will take cyclists, that will take that route.
Because it's the safest, right? Because
Yeah.
people die on Chandler.
Well, their most dangerous trek is Chandler, but that's
Like,
something,
people die.
I understand. That's something that we.
They get run over by cars
Yes, it's
going
something-
55.
Well, it's a two-part issue. It's one part, there's not a good motorized system there. It's second part, Chandler Road is built on Home Muck and gets crazy crosswinds. So you have a road that's doing this, 2 golf courses with high winds. I mean, they're replacing the fence at Hawk Hollow at a yearly basis.
But that's
But
because
that's
it's
not-
not in it.
Yeah,
Got nothing to do with the west area.
And the fence serves no purpose other than it's decorative.
well, it's aesthetic.
Yeah.
That's, that's a purpose,
There's no functional purpose. So, but,
It's got a
but,
financial.
Doesn't seem to,
let me draw this up to, I think, a point. Like, we have an issue with the connectivity with our neighboring communities. And so one is, how do we connect to East Lansing? If we connect to East Lansing, then we connect the rest of the neighboring communities, right? So I would say that that's one area of connectivity for non-motorized trails. The second and as has been a part of many of our conversations, is how do we connect the downtown development area, or downtown area of Bath to Park Lake? Because those are our two natural draws. And we know that, you know, this corridor right here on this road is what realistically is going to be our downtown area in 50 years, right? If we accept a Severy plan of action of thinking about our future. So I would say those are our two areas. In terms of other transportation, what we talked about, and probably I talked too much, and I apologize, you can all tell me to shut up, I mean, please do. We talked about, you know, what is the role of a highway off-ramp on Chandler Road, right? And what might that do for, you know, our long-range future development plans? And so, and we just drew this, and Miles was not terribly convinced at the beginning, and maybe softened up a little bit, is, you know, the role of Drumheller as a corridor that's ripe for development. Along with, I'm still convinced that there's a whole area along Chandler that is huge for development. And so, you know, I'm just putting out there something I would like to see as part of this is maybe some clearer statements about, you know, part of our future direction is promoting a highway off-ramp off of Chandler, as well as a development tool, and economic incentive. You know, it would be in alignment with East Lansing's, I think, what, future land use map, or is it their comprehensive plan? It's one or the other, or both. It's both.
Both, I think.
And so the more that we can come in alignment, and especially if, you know, there's conversations with DeWitt Township, to be on the same page with that as well, that, I think that, you know, creates larger incentive that can be negotiated with larger funding entities like the state.
I think one of the things that you need to be mindful of in the future as more development does come this way is, right now you can get off on Webster Road. If there's a lot more in the area at some point in the future, everybody will be getting off on Webster Road still. A Chandler Road exit could potentially provide a little bit of a safety valve for that Webster Road as it gets busier. And then you'd have 2 points, and you'd be routing some traffic, you know, along different routes instead of all of it trying to use the same interchange. So yeah, I do think that there's a lot of value in thinking about that.
Can I say a couple things, because that was a lot, and I'm just trying to, again, get the bullet point list in my head,
Sure.
so we've got actionable information.
Yep.
So what I heard, and correct me if I'm wrong on any of this, is we need greater connectability to our like nodes of activity, which
Yes.
that's inherently true. And I think the township has worked towards that, and if we have more money, as we stated during the economic development meeting coming in the future, we have dollars that are gonna go into pathways around the north side of the lake, which will help us close that gap between downtown and the lake, 2 nodes. And then we have dollars coming which will help us close the gap between you and East Lansing. Admittedly, a much wider gap.
Us, in East Lansing.
Yeah, but I was specifically your house.
Yeah.
But, so that's inherently true. The next inherently true thing I think I heard was we need to do a better job as development pressures come south of partnering with our neighboring community, DeWitt Township. We've reached out to East Lansing in the past and will continue to do so in the future. There's been some, I know when we originally were talking about the Chandler corridor, there was a quick conversation with them. There wasn't a lot of buy-in, and then every planner there left. And then we had to put the pedal to the floor to plan this thing out to meet MDOT's regulations. So that's kind of where, and now we have this money on the table for 2028, I think it is, or something.
Yes.
So we'll have to bridge the gap back to East Lansing, and they got totally new staff, so looking forward to that. So those 2 things I heard, which were inherently true, and then I heard the part about, the last point was the highway connection off of Chandler. to me, and we talked about this I consider that a wild card event. That's one of those things that like happens in the built environment and planning industry where like an event happens and like the tables flipped. Like that's what would happen if MDOT came one day and was like, some SUVs pulled up, I'm assuming, I don't know what MDOT drives. And
Well,
they're
they
like,
do.
he's shaking his head no. And they're like, hey, we wanna do a highway exit off of Chandler. At that point, like, whatever our zoning is, like, we're amending. But with that being said, I think it is probably, even if the chance is 10%, which that's where I put it, maybe less. But like, I think you gotta say something about the potential of that in the comp plan. Like, I think that's fair.
So it's 10% or less because of the attitude that we don't think it's gonna happen. If we write it into the comprehensive plan and we talk about it as happening, that signals to others, the state, the county, that this is ripe for development, right?
True, but two things all.
So you increase it from 10%
I
to
don't know.
45%.
Two things. One, I think we talked about it last time. MDOT's got a regulation that they can only have off-ramp can only be within such length of another off-ramp. And because they have the 127 off-ramp, the old 127, and they have Webster Road, I think to establish exit on Chandler, MDOT would have to amend their own standards.
So you also have MSU as a player, right? And all the congestion that occurs during the game.
And that's totally true.
So that's a wild
Who
card on top
hasn't,
of a wild card.
and that's why I call it a wild card, because who hasn't seen a government state agency amend their own standards because
Oh,
of
yeah.
pressure from a Big Ten college?
Yep,
Totally.
right.
So that's why I
Or
put
if we
it
put a
at.
bunch of data centers on Drumheller.
So one, I think you have a large, I think you have a large regulatory hurdle that would have to be jumped, even if with pressure. And then two, if we were to put that language, which I'm not opposed to it at all, but that would be perceived, I think, as like a political, there could be a political perception of that, like, and that's fine, like, if you wanna own that, and that's what the direction you wanna go with the plan, but I think that saying something like, we are either in favor or we are, in favor is one thing, incentivizing is another. Either one of those though, being communicated in the comprehensive plan cause we're always, this is the main point of that township. Sustainable development, we've really got two different interest groups in the township, you know, you kinda have like the just to paint a broad brush. You have like the pro-growth, pro-development interest group, and then you have the, pro keeping it how it is, don't go change it.
But let me tie this together.
Okay.
I mean, unless you're gonna tie it together.
No, I don't, you go for it,
Unless someone else wants to tie it together.
No?
No, I don't
Just
like
do
part of it.
together.
What? Okay, I appreciate
I
that.
wanna incentivize people to get off at Webster Road and have development where we already have water and sewer and a good road, a Class A road, as opposed to, saw what MDOT did with Marsh Road, and they said, oh, here's the line, we aren't concerned about anything that happens to the road after our line, you take care of it, so now it's your problem. And I saw what they did with Airport Road, and I see what they're doing in Ann Arbor with the exits there, and it's the same thing. Oh, no, that's not our problem, that's your local problem. Well, they created a problem when they did what they did to the road. And as far as I'm concerned, they should own part of that problem, maybe not all of it, but at least part of it. But they don't, oh, no, it's not our problem. There's the line in the sand.
Well, I think MDOT's attitude is, if it's an MDOT road, it gets priority over anything else, period.
Mm-hmm,
You look at traffic signals on MDOT roads with a local road.
right,
You'll sit on the local road forever waiting for the MDOT road to turn red when there's no cars,
yep,
because they prioritize movement on their MDOT system,
you're right, Ray,
So,
100%.
yep.
so I'm not bogged down in the weeds.
So as far as I'm concerned, incentivizing an exit at Chandler Road is a deal breaker.
Well, the other thing, when you talk about that, earlier we were talking about saving our prime farmland, and where is it? It's along Chandler Road.
Yes,
Now, if we put an interchange in there, that's gonna encourage more development right where we don't want it.
and it's true for DeWitt and Bath both.
I mean, so to me, that's a bait big negative putting an intercept there. And the other thing is, I hear what MSU wants, they want a direct connection to the campus. Well, tough.
So,
Get it.
so.
Where's it gonna go when it does get to
Well,
campus?
respectfully,
Good question.
both are absolutely wrong.
Okay,
But let me create an argument for that.
well,
So-
let's make it quick so we can move on.
Okay, so here's my thought, right? We have this pressure, we wanna maintain our natural environment, right? But we also
Okay.
know that we have to develop, right?
Yeah.
Because we have to maintain our infrastructure, we're a growing population. We can't do that without development and tax, right?
Right, okay,
So realistically, what we want is to push all the development into our southern region, right? Last time we talked about the I-75 corridor, and there is some limitations there unless you go on to Old 78, right? So,
Right.
and then that can be developed. But you have Chandler, south of the golf course peoples, that can all be developed, right? And so part of incentivizing that is potentially creating another off-ramp right there, right? And maybe, and maybe that wouldn't incentivize it, but, you know, we also have Drumheller as another area, right? There's no farmland on Drumheller, right? When we talk about Drumheller
Right.
and the built environment, we talk about like the western part of our township or anything north of, I mean, what is it, It's Clark Road.
right, correct, yes.
And so, I don't think any of us have like a vision of, you know, farmland or bucolic, you know, beauty, you know, south of Clark Road, unless it's on the western part where it's all just state land anyway. So part of, you know, integrating the transportation in with goal one of preserving the natural environment is, like, how do we drive development to the southern tier while also improving the transportation? That's my thought. Now, both of your points are far more detailed and probably way more accurate than what I provide, but.
So I got an answer to that. The off-ramp can only go south.
That's gonna be hard to do.
I love it. Why not?
Well,
They do it how?
yeah, there are places
And
they
then they
do
could drive
that.
all the way through downtown Bath. Actually, I think that's brilliant.
All right. In
Okay.
terms of, I don't know, Joe, that was a lot. In terms of actual items from us, I guess we'll wordsmith like what that means in terms of like a priority. But I don't know if you wanna just like, for now, I think we probably gotta move on.
Yeah, I think we better move on.
Well, while we're talking about roads, which we're talking about now, you've got on page 51, you've got the map of the National Function Classification. I think we need to take a look at that and decide, does that fit with how we want to develop in the township? Because those roads are key to how a development's gonna occur. I mean, one that caught my eye is Clark Road is a minor arterial west of Webster. East of Webster is not. And Upton Road is just a minor collector, or
Major collector.
major. And I'm thinking, you know, to serve the township, both of those roads to me need to be minor arterials. That's what we should be driving at, I'm kinda getting back to something I talked about a long time ago, is a truck route map. How would we put a truck route map, superimpose that on this? Because that's gotta be improved by the county also, but we gotta have some common sense of where the truck route map should go. Because right now, we have trucks running down, Hawk Hollow Drive, they shouldn't be there.
Sure.
But they get off the freeway at Webster, and instead of going north, they go south and come through the neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
We don't want them there.
Yeah, that's not ideal. At the very least, we can address truck routing in principle here, but we could potentially even come up with a map that just for, routing. Okay. Yes, so moving on to economic development. So we have this goal that's explicitly about economic development, encouraging economic development that leverages the talent distinctions of the township with an emphasis on small business. With two objectives under that: engage in appropriate programs to strengthen economic development opportunities in the township, and facilitate economic development that fulfills the needs and desires of the community. We know from asking them that those needs and desires actually have some shape. One of the things that is emphasized even in the wording of the goal is emphasis on small business, local, as local as possible anyway. In particular, when we surveyed people, local retail and restaurant options came up quite a bit. People want somewhere to go. And of course, to the south, we've got larger cities where they can go, but they also have to go there instead of staying, close to home. So when we asked restaurants for like, the one thing that people said, we want more places to go, we want more places to eat out locally. With retail as a fairly distant second, and then medical offices and healthcare services were number 3. Grocery and mixed development with both housing and retail were mixed on the list. I'm just gonna skip a couple of these slides here. We'll go right into the questions here. During our goal discussion last time, we talked about promoting incubator and shared workspaces, other strategies for promoting startup activity. Are there spaces or assets that you can think of that could directly aid an effort like that? Because certainly we can add those kinds of things to our zoning ordinance and say, yes, this is explicitly something we permit. But do we have something that could maybe even jumpstart that? A corner of a community center or something like that? Is there anything we can think of? And if we don't, that's fine, but wanted to ask the question.
No, if I remember correctly, the township has a community center, but I mean, it's a white box, it's got a
Sure.
small kitchen facility. We have a senior center, but again, it's a white box with a commercial grade kitchen facility. We don't have like when I worked in the city of Flint, they had Factory 2, which is like a true incubator space. We don't have something like that, but I think the intent of that conversation was through policy to incentivize maybe the creation of something like permitted via zoning. Cause right now, and I'm sure as you're aware, in most communities, permitting a Factory 2 type space can be challenging, cause it's loosely defined. It's kind of like with the flex storage thing, it's we had a hard time wrapping
Yep.
our minds around what that was, cause it's loosely defined. A Factory 2 type place is even more so than that, cause it's there was a cab machine in the corner, there's a conveyor belt over there, and then there was an open floor plan of cubicles. It's what is that?
Right.
I don't know.
Sure, and partly it is a matter of defining it, figuring out what kind of thing you're looking for, and actually putting a term to it that is defined.
So I think those actionable steps is what the answer to that first question was.
Okay. Do you think that you have an inventory of existing commercial spaces that supports the establishment of small businesses, or do you think more spaces would be needed for businesses to?
I'm gonna be anxious to see what happens with the little incubator businesses that Jeff's building to hand.
Yeah, but just, true, but from my perspective, this is a question that we get a lot and a desire we get from a lot of developers. Just in the housing space, as I'm sure everyone's aware, that starter housing price point between 200,000 and 400,000 is the most desirable, most scarce housing stock out there. And on the commercial side, that medium-sized warehouse is also the most desirable, most scarce thing out there. We get phone calls all the time from developers or, business people. Hey, just wanted to call, do you know of any, 1,200 square foot, 1,400 square foot, 4,000 square foot warehouse? Our business is taking off, but we don't wanna make too much of a capital investment. I mean, those things go like crazy. Sure. So no, we don't have I mean, from my perspective, I don't know what you guys think, but
No, we don't.
we get questions about it weekly.
And what we have has been filled.
Yeah, it's on.
Because what was on Old 78, there were a couple of those that filled in and they're doing well.
Yeah,
It'd be a cheerleading facility, training facility.
there's a need for it, the parents in this area would say there's a need for it.
Oh,
We
I
hear that
don't
all the time,
disagree.
too.
There's already one of those at Perry in Old 78.
But like a good example that happened in recent history was, I think there was a caulking gun facility there on Old M78. And they ended up, I think, just closing up shop because the owner wanted to retire and
Yeah.
didn't have children to pass the business on to.
Right,
And that facility sold for $1.7 million. They threw another like 400,000 into it, and now it's a book printing,
Book printing
custom book printing facility.
correct.
That's a cool reuse.
They started out of Bath in their basement. They grew too big for the basement.
Even cooler.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool.
But yeah, some more spaces will be needed, is what I'm hearing. Okay. Small businesses are one aspect of economic development. What about the development of more employment opportunities in the township? Or some other aspect of economic development we should be considering? Looking for things like offices or small industrial development, that kind of thing, that provides a base of employment. Of course, industrial doesn't provide the same amount of employment that it once did, generally speaking. But how are we feeling about that aspect of economic development? Do we have what we want? Do we want more?
I think the issue is to get people to invest in that type of activity in Bath, and I don't know how you're gonna do that. I honestly don't. I mean, there are people here with money, obviously, they aren't invested in Bath. I don't know why, but they're reluctant to invest in Bath. Maybe, I'm not a real proponent of a lot of government money being put into businesses, but I see communities doing it. Some are very successful, some are failures. But I don't know if I wanna invest in that as a public servant.
Well, there's the other side of the spectrum. This gets outside of kind of like the planning realm, but like, you keep your fundamentals, competitive. So that's keeping your tax rate at a competitive rate. You don't wanna be the highest tax municipality in the area. We have that advantage because the municipality to our south, Meridian, is, pretty high millage. So
Yeah, they sure
we're
do.
pretty good.
Yep,
So I mean, that's an advantage, and we've seen that in, business people desiring to move out of Meridian and relocate in Bath. But the issue they run into isn't the desirability, it's the floor plan space in Bath.
right. I don't know that there's a lot of vacant commercial property in Bath, is there, Miles?
No, I think at this point, in my opinion, you would have to, that's the biggest barriers, if you wanna establish more commercial in Bath, you're building. And
Sure.
building can be a barrier to entry.
Sure. Yeah, especially if you're not well established already, if you're not capitalized.
No.
Yeah, I think from a zoning perspective, you've got the land for it. It's a matter of what greases the wheels to get people, taking advantage of that.
Okay,
Okay.
anything else? Let's move on.
Move on to housing. So, this is a little bit of an add-on from the original scope of work that we were considering, in part because the Michigan Planning Enabling Act was recently amended to require that housing be a core element of any municipal master plan. Your existing master plan, of course, addresses housing. But we really want to make sure that we're talking about it in the update as well, just to just to make sure that we are covering that base, and of course it is ultimately a key to the township's future. So the goal in the master plan is to catalyze the development of a more diversified housing stock in order to ensure fair housing opportunities for all. And that's supported by two objectives: identify opportunities to promote a greater variety of housing types and ensure that new and existing housing is of a high quality. Now, in your zoning ordinance, you have done a great deal of work in this direction already. You have multiple districts. Really, there's not much of the township where you can't do some kind of housing. And then in your development district, for instance, you permit a lot of different types of housing.
Mhm.
District, the high-density development district and the high-density residential district also produce or permit a lot of different types of housing. So I think in terms of what you're permitting in your zoning ordinance, you are light years ahead of most communities in Michigan. You've kind of done a lot of this work already. So I think one of the things that we need to do in this master plan update is acknowledge that that work has been done, and that these permissions are in place now, and then it's mostly a matter of, are there any more details that we want to address from here? Because, like I said, you've done a really good job of making sure that you are in a good place as far as meeting that goal.
To clarify, what you have in the purple is what you would recommend us adding.
So that's actually what's a special land use right now.
Okay.
I should have clarified that when I was talking about it, yeah. So the purple is a special land use and the black is permitted use. So you can see that, like accessory apartments are always a special land use, but you've got plenty of other things in most of these districts that are permitted by right. And of course, rural is mostly focused on single-family detached because it's rural. You're not trying to put apartments and, other things all over it. I'm gonna skip through some of these. This is kind of one of the slides I did want to stop on for a second, though. Just 3 types of housing you most like to live in. So you can see that people generally chose things that are detached when they answered this question. And, the largest number is for single-family detached, which is what a lot of people move here to live in, so that makes sense. But then when you look at the other top answers, the cottage court is a detached home in an environment of other similar detached homes, and then a tiny home, of course, is just a variation on a single-family home. And of course, no one chose high-rise because
No,
moved to Bath for high-rises.
no, well, can't build high-rise in Bath anyhow.
No, right, exactly.
I kind of question the validity of these numbers in terms of, I wonder how slanted this is because of the small sample size that we got of respondents and where most of the respondents were located.
Sure. To a degree, it is going to be slanted. Most of the people who took the survey live in a single-family home.
Yes,
And that is
by choice.
background data that was captured in the survey as well. We asked them where they live, what they live in. So yes, there is a certain degree of response bias here. People moved here to live in a single-family home. They live in a single-family home. That's what their preference is.
Right.
At least for this point, this stage of their life.
But I think if you were looking to survey people that were looking for affordable housing, the responses would be a lot different than that.
Yes, most likely the duplex, townhome, courtyard, and multiplex would become a much, bigger point of emphasis because there are major efficiencies of scale.
Yes.
in building these things.
So I guess, is there any way to capitalize on that in Bath? Because going back to your page 3, I did a little calculation. You've got potential of 2,876 people wanting to locate in Bath over the next 6 years, roughly, 5 years. And we have a limited number of REUs. Are you familiar with REUs? Yeah, that are available. We have about 600. So if you figure there's probably 2 people per unit, that means we've got a potential of 1,200 people to locate in Bath and connect to the sewer system.
Sure. Yep, you're starting to see an imbalance there.
Yes, there's an imbalance there. So, but I don't wanna encourage rural development either, because the last time I looked at installing the septic tank and sewer system in the rural area, you were looking at anywhere from $20,000 to $40,000.
Sure, yeah, absolutely, and you gotta have a reserve and everything.
And that affects the housing price too.
Yeah, it affects the price of the housing, it affects what you can do with the land too, because you're putting in a septic field,
Yep.
putting in a reserve,
Yep, putting in a well.
got a well, and there's a certain spacing
Distances,
around that,
yes.
so, yeah, it's
So-
definitely a constraint.
I'm curious about this narrative of we want affordable housing. Yet, I've never heard any of us actually voice that desire. I think we all want
Well, I don't,
things to be affordable, but like, I've never heard any of us really talk about like
I think we have,
prioritizing affordable housing.
well, I think we have a large disagreement on what's affordable.
Well, I think there's the official affordable, what HUD defines as affordable and what HUD would subsidize in terms of building housing. So there's that affordable. There's the more like perceptual affordable, what people perceive as something they could potentially afford. And then there's another term, attainable, which is being used more now. And that's basically when you're looking at kind of the population that's 20% on either side of your area median income. And what can those people actually buy with the money that they're making? So you might be making 20% less than the area median income, you might be making 20% more than the area median income. And that's usually defined as the metropolitan statistical area, if you're in one. And that's generally considered the attainability threshold for housing. Not everyone in that group is gonna be able to afford to buy a home, but if you're trying to have some of your stock in that range. And if all of your housing stock is above that range, then you don't really have attainable housing.
But, I mean, these are all theoretical, like, ideals, right? So the last 2 times we had a rezoning request brought before us, the narrative among the neighboring homeowners was always the same. We don't want that because you allow a lesser class of housing than what our housing is.
Classic NIMBY argument.
And
Yep.
so, I like, I understand these ideals, right? You know, we as a liberal society want affordable housing for all members of our society. But we don't want it here, right? When you talk to the real people, right? And so, I don't know.
Joe, do you wanna get, before, could we go to the questions?
Yeah.
And then, yeah.
Okay, that's a good idea.
Kind of pick it up on
Thank you, Miles.
where we're at and then like what's been said and then these. Okay, so a couple of things, as, just from my perspective, to try to get the conversation going. So, it's going, it's going, I'm gonna try to tie it together here. So, one thing that Joe pointed out, which if people aren't aware of, in the planning industry, it's not super common to have single-family homes as a permitted by right land use in every district in the community. It's actually pretty rare. So in that sense, Bath Township's got a very progressive zoning ordinance. Progressive and allowing housing, since not progressive necessarily in the political sense of the word. So like to your point though that you brought up, like that is a policy choice of like, we are incentivizing to a greater degree than people, communities around us, the creation of housing. So like in theory, as the stock of housing rises, the price of housing should shrink. But we're one township in a big fishbowl here. With that being said, I think Joe is honing in on a point that is true. The word affordable housing gets thrown around a lot and means a lot of different things to a lot of different people. I am one of those people, Joe, that likes the term attainable housing, because I think when most people say affordable housing, unless we're talking about straight up subsidized housing, which we are talking about sometimes in Bath, most people, I think, mean housing that like their kids can afford.
Right, sure.
Not necessarily with a voucher from the government. And in that respect, I mean, maybe I'm off, but I feel like we talk about housing a lot, and it is a big restriction of this grant is that we're having these conversations around housing. So, to that end, to Joe's point, we're progressive with our housing. The barriers to entry though, Joe, that I see from the administrative side is, one, even though housing is allowed by right in almost every district, anything above a duplex has to come before the planning commission, and then anything above 8 units has to go before the board of trustees. All this costs money and time for the developer in Kansas Caramel, so sometimes in our policies, we can allow housing, like in theory, in our ordinance, but then our actual policies create barriers to entry. So I think an actionable step from my perspective would be to reduce those barriers to entry. So that might look like, maybe we up the unit count to 16 units goes to the planning, 16 units and below comes before the planning commission, 17 units and above goes to the board of trustees. That alone would help lower barriers to entry, and maybe like a 4-plex and below can be approved administratively, a 5-plex and above has to come before the plan. I'm not advocating for any of those, I'm just saying that those are ideas of where you could use your policy creation and move that dial of harder to easier.
We could also get rid of the landscaping ordinance, which had costs, right?
There's all kinds of stuff you could do like that.
I mean,
Or,
I think the
or
point
you
is,
could
it's
standardize
like,
your
the
landscaping.
movements of this planning commission has been to create more and more ordinances, right? And
That's
more and
true.
more restrictions that add costs.
It's true,
Yes.
yes.
And so, like, do we honestly value this? And then, you know, John talks about REUs. If we, you know, allow more or, you know, incentivize more housing, can we actually afford it? Do we have the facilities for it? And what's the, you know, cost there? I'm saying, like, I'm all for affordable housing or attainable housing, whatever you wanna label it,
But
but
it has
like,
math.
but our trajectory has not been in support of that.
Well, and that's where I think zoning does play an important role, and this sounds corny coming like from the planning group, but sustainable development is key there to the problem that you're laying out, because if we're building single-family homes on 2-acre lots and we're trying to serve them with sewer, that's never gonna math. You do have to have that density scale, I mean, that's why we gotta work with our developers, work with our PUD language and figure out like what is sustainable build out look like for Bath.
So maybe the language should change from affordable housing to sustainable.
I think yeah, that's a good point, Joe, I think sustainability, sustainable build out has to be mentioned in this section. Because if it's not sustainable or in a way that's done like smartly in reference to infrastructure, then we would be in the long run shooting ourselves in the foot, so to speak.
Absolutely.
So those are two good like takeaways, I think. Sustainability, connectability to currently established infrastructure. And that's why we do have a map, I don't know if it's in our set, but we do have kind of that service, boundary. And for me, that's always been, you know, when a developer comes in, hey, what would you like to see, you know, that's a map we show them sometimes and say, hey, if you're thinking about anything on a dense scale, you need to be inside this red line.
So, one concrete thing that we can throw in, if we're looking to throw concrete things in.
Yeah.
So we know we have an aging population that's based on demographics, right?
Agreed.
So, and we also know, and I think, you know, most of us on the plan commission were grumpy about it. We allow eco housing, right? But as soon as the person passes away, then the eco housing must be ripped out and, you know, replaced. And so I'm assuming that's what accessory housing is, right?
That's the accessory apartment, yeah.
Yeah, so why are we not prioritizing accessory apartments or accessory dwelling units on existing parcels? Because, I mean, if I think about affordable, like, one, you're not adding RUs, right? And so it's presumably it's, you know, working off the existing,
They would, typically, they build a service line off of the structure.
Right.
Yeah.
It's less typical to build a new service
it,
line.
it would primarily be oriented towards family members that are in need, AKA, you know, elderly.
It doesn't have to be, I mean.
It doesn't have to, but
Yeah.
it's still
That's a
win-win,
great,
right?
no, that's a great point, so I think an action item that could come out of this one would be the review and establishment of an ordinance that permits accessory dwellings. That's something we've talked about in the past.
Yep.
And what about multiple tiny homes on one parcel, fed off the same?
It's something again, that's really what cottage housing kinda is, like if you've ever seen it, it's usually 4 to 8 structures detached on one parent parcel using shared utilities.
We gotta be careful, we can't assume that small housing is not gonna increase RUs.
No.
It increases.
RU is based on population, not number of buildings.
Right. It
I think
increases
there
your
are,
flow.
I think there are a lot of like niche details we'd have to dive into, but I think the high level take is those options should be discussed and on the table.
Yes.
But it's a single family household with 12 members, because it's just a productive family. It's gonna be the same as, you know, 4 tiny homes with like 2 residents.
Yeah, but
Again, I think
REUs don't
the
address
big-
that.
The takeaway, I mean, is like, there's options out there, they're not on the table right now. An
Yes.
action item for this would be get those on the table.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, and to your
If we
point,
wanna-
Mike,
If we wanna balance things out to make them equal to everybody, then we gotta change our water system or our sewer system based on water usage.
Yeah.
Because I know that there's a house across from me, they've got at least 4 or 5 people living there, because there's 4 or 5 cars. So I'm sure that their sewer usage is higher than mine is,
That apply.
but they're paying the same.
So,
then you gotta have a way to meter the water though, Ray.
We already meter the water in those areas.
Oh, well, some areas we don't though,
No, the areas we don't, then you got a problem, but
yeah.
so to get to Joe's questions here, do the recent changes to the zoning, permit more missing middle appear to be gaining traction? I would say that our recent changes to zoning to permit more missing middle, I don't know if we've had recent changes to zoning that permit.
Allowing private roads is probably the
Yeah,
most recent.
that's true.
Yeah,
That's true, but I think I would say we've made some progress, but there's much work to do, if I can answer that.
yeah, I would agree with you, Miles, a lot of work to be done.
We've had a
drives
few
and
projects I know that have come in under the new zoning.
I think question 2 we answered,
Yes.
and then how well served are family forming and downsizing empty nest households by the current housing stock?
We've kind of glanced at that question as well in the discussion so far,
Cause that's what your last question kind of brought up.
part of that's an attainability question, particularly for the family forming, population, and then part of it is a stock question.
Yeah.
We have things that you can move into.
Just to that question, that's kind of where I led this off, like, those 2 demographics, the family forming, so like millennials having their first child, and then the downsizing, so like the empty nesters, what I've seen in Bath is those 2 demographics want the same house, and they're in fierce competition for it, and the empty nester has cash. And so they get the house.
Yeah,
Very true.
yep, I agree.
I look
Yeah.
at my neighborhood.
Yeah, so there's probably a need there. Okay. finally, that brings us to these three priority growth areas. So we have this goal, identify priority growth areas in the south end of the township which can reasonably accommodate anticipated future growth. Let's continue coordination between various regional stakeholders and then develop specialized plans necessary for locations and topics within the township that warrant special attention. So we're gonna talk about three specific areas here. Several of which were highlighted in people's responses when we asked where commercial development should be concentrated. Specifically Main Street, the Webster Road between 69 and Clark, and then the 69 exits along Saginaw Highway were all the areas where people most thought it should be concentrated. And the first one that we're gonna look at is southwestern Bath. So we have this big kind of weird chunk of East Lansing that comes up into the township, and on the other side of that from the entire rest of the township is this little corner of the township, which is starting to approach build out. It's getting to the point where most of that land is occupied by something. There's a fair amount of multifamily there, some office and commercial as well.
This is the Tower neighborhood?
This is like.
Towers and that image, but this is Chandler Road, Noco Lofts.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, exactly. So you've got, to the north of that, there's a little, like outdoor recreation use, the cart track there. And then, one of the challenges here, and we were talking about it before, is that it's not well connected to the rest of the township. Because you literally have Chandler Road that goes up into the township, and you can connect there. There's no other way to connect to the township directly from here. There's not even a road that goes to the east and brings you over to that Saginaw Highway area. So that's one of the challenges for this area. You've got D development district zoning all through the area, so it's primed from a zoning perspective for things to happen. On the east side of the spur of East Lansing that sticks out, that's all zoned rural, because there's some cultivated fields there. There's really not that much likelihood of new major roadways here, but there could be some opportunities for additional pathway connectivity here. And again, we were talking about this earlier, that bringing pathways through this area might be one way to improve its connectivity to the rest of the township. You've got some opportunities. We were talking about people riding bikes with the golf course there earlier, so thinking about some things that we could build on that are maybe already happening is one way that I think this area could maybe feel more integrated into the rest of the township.
Oh, well, that's true.
So I guess I'm just interested to know if anybody's got any other additional thoughts, beyond any of the things that I just said there, about this area, the challenges that it faces, particularly with regard to connectivity. Again, I think we talked about it earlier, but any other thoughts on this area?
I'm of the opinion that there's a lot more developable area there than what we realize. I mean, we've got the turf grass farm, right, which has conservation easements on it, but that's not insurmountable for development. We've got that whole section between the two apartment complexes on the right-hand side of the channel that, could be well developed. Having some collaboration conversations with DeWitt and East Lansing, there's even more development opportunities, especially if those are done, cohesively. Those could be, self-reinforcing.
One of the limiting factors you got there though, Jason, is sewer capacity.
Yeah, well, I mean,
And
there's
not
gonna be
just-
some sewer capacity build out, right, as part of this, the
Well,
latest
part of it
Chandler.
is, yes, but you're not gonna solve the problem of getting it to the plant.
Yeah, well, yes, but you have 3 municipalities, you have 2 townships in a city, right?
Correct,
And there's scales there
yes.
to build out that infrastructure.
But East Lansing does not want any more sewerage from us.
What they want and what is
Well-
negotiated are 2 different things, right?
Right.
So, one is, are we talking about what's realistic today? Or are we
20
thinking
years.
about a 20-year plan?
20.
Well, yeah, theoretically, we're talking about a 20-year plan.
And are we talking about only our funds, or are we talking about 3 municipality funds with potential, we already have states, earmarks going into Chandler redevelopment.
Yes,
So those are opportunities that, I feel that, we should capitalize on, both in terms of, what's currently available, but what we should have a vision for.
well,
And then in terms of the question about, direct connection, I mean, that's where Drumheller comes into place, right? It's a half hour north, on the other side of the golf course area. But, I mean, I think there are public right-of-ways through, as part of the drain, that goes to that farmland. And-
Yeah, the Remy
and there
Chandler
was
drain, yeah.
lots of conversations back in the early 80s about building a road, through that area to connect to Park Lake to ease the
There
congestion
was.
there.
yes, there was,
During the planning for I-69.
right, there was, yes,
Those always could be picked up.
yes.
And if, say, the farmer for that, had some incentivization to, forego the easement, conservation easement, there's lots of developable land, there.
Yeah,
Well, if nothing else, you could just put a trail and then that connects you right to East Lansing.
One for electric scooters, because gas prices.
Sure. I mean, just person power costs nothing. You gotta charge it.
Gotta feed it.
You can do that anyway.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I think all that's valid. Moving kind of to the east here, South Central Bath. So this is among the most intensive development areas in the township. It's dominated by D development district zoning and LDR low density residential zoning, often kind of right next to each other. There's also an access management overlay in place here, so one of the things that has been thought about and has actually been implemented is how do we control this road so that it doesn't just become a giant mess of driveways. And that's ultimately gonna massively improve the safety of the road if you don't have tons of different points of conflict. So thinking about the relationship between that D district and the LDR district is one thing to consider. Most of them are separated by roads, but not all of them. This is the area we're talking about. We've got Meyer, Ace Hardware, and a few other things. And of course, there's this interchange between Business 69 and I-69. Zoning in the area looks like this. Again, it's that D district is this bluish color. There's your overlay for access management and the slashes. And
Yep.
then this is the low density residential all around it. So, a couple things to think about. If the D district builds out and reaches sort of a critical mass, what's the plan for LDR that surrounds the D district?
Yep.
Are we trying to contain it within what we've got currently designated as D, or is there going to be some direction in which that's allowed to spill over in the future if it gets built out. So why don't we address that before we address anything else? What are we thinking about? Let's project ourselves 20 years into the future and say that this D district has built out, there's pressure at the edges of this district. How might we handle that?
I'm gonna have to rezone. Or-
There's basically two options on the table, like from a technical perspective. Either you try to prevent sprawl, thus you keep the low density regulations in place, or you even downzone, which, there could be the creation of non-legal conformities by downzoning, so that's not always ideal to do.
Oh,
But you either keep you either keep this in place and try to control growth and sprawl. Or the other mechanism, if sprawl and build out is desired to be incentivized, you could keep this in place, but then look to your future land use map and rezone some of it on your future land use map that we'll establish. You kinda have to establish a new one, cause the old one just like so out of whack. That way, at least you would give the development a path to seek a rezoning if they really desired to build out. And then I guess the most maximal option would just be changing it on the zoning, right on its face, and just expanding the development district. Those would kind of be the three options on the table. The pros and cons to all options.
yeah. And some of that area does have water and sewer capacity,
It does.
yes. Not all of it, but some of it.
Do we have a high-density development district? I just thought we just have a
We have
density.
We have a high density development district, that's like the,
It's different from the D development.
It is.
It's gonna be on the next map, actually.
So, we discussed this a little bit at the last meeting, right? So, the question is, if you look at other parts of the community survey, and what the public wants, right? People wanna see development in specific areas. And so, I think one question we should consider is what type of development do we want in this area? Like, do we wanna incentivize commercial restaurant type development in this area? Or do we wanna incentivize it in the Webster corridor area?
Sure.
And so, if we incentivize development down there, how might that affect where development does not occur elsewhere in the township?
That's true. You're kind of pushing them into one area, and they're gonna go the path of least resistance.
Yeah.
From kind of, and Joe, looking for thoughts here, just from like a planning viewpoint, I think like what you're seeing on this map, like if I didn't work at Bath and I was just looking at I would see an effort to contain sprawl. I don't know if that is necessarily a bad thing. Sure. And then that kind of helps out with what you're saying, which is like, if the goal is to slowly incentivize development along the Webster Road corridor, you wouldn't want to like turn the spigot all the way on to Saginaw, because they're just gonna go there. So I don't know, I guess if we're comfortable with where this is, I don't know if you do anything, the only thing that I may suggest, and I only know this because I'm in the office taking the phone calls, is those kind of larger parcels that are in the pocket of I-69, south of I-69, and then to the east of Business 69. There's 3 large parcels there that we get calls quite a bit about. Sewer and water aren't far off, they're underutilized right now. If utilities were to be moved there, that would be an opportunity for build out. So you could even zone it's a large enough area where it wouldn't be considered spot zoning to zone them. And to your point, maybe you don't want the lows there, but maybe you want a neighborhood. You could always put it high density residential. That way you keep it in that residential vein and keep it out of the lows trying to build there. And you could do that either outright on the current zoning map through this process, or you could do it on the future map, at least giving them the opportunity to rezone.
Mm-hmm.
You said Lowe's, right?
Somebody brought up that there was a
Big
Lowe's
box.
back in the day.
There was what?
A Lowe's back in the day proposed in Bath.
I heard it was Menards in Horrocks.
I'll take either.
Over
I
by
mean-
Dutch Hills, right?
Dutch Hills, yes.
To me, I'd rather see that kind of development in that area, because one, it's more sustainable, as opposed to more restaurants and other family-oriented.
Yeah, you mean housing?
Well, one typically brings the other.
Or
You
you mean
can't go to a
restaurants, just
Lowe's
basic,
without driving
people want
past three
restaurants, right?
restaurants.
Yeah.
And grocery
you have to
stores.
drive.
And I guess that actually kind of goes to my other question about this area, is, you know, kind of what balance are we trying to establish here between locally oriented business activity and more pass-through business from travelers on
I think that's
69?
a simple debate at this point. And I think that, I kind of whispered, but I think that's a good question. But I think because of factors outside of vast control, being that this is a major corridor for people to get to and from MSU, if you look at how Meridian and East Lansing, it gets kind of messy as you continue south there, southeast. This is becoming one of those, commercialized geography of nowhere locations that exist everywhere in the world and everyone claims they hate, but everyone shops there. And so I don't like, I think if you tried to create government policy to like hold back that flood, I think it's an effort in futility, like the market has spoken. I think you're going to the Webster Road corridor next. With that being said, I think that is still very much an open question on the Webster Road corridor.
Well, you know, Miles, if we look at those parcels, and we look at what, I would assume it must be Hazlet zoning, as you go further west along M78.
Okay.
Did you notice the apartments that have been built there, and then they're building a whole new complex as well?
Oh, you mean on Saginaw?
On
Yeah,
Saginaw.
Saginaw, yeah,
That's Meridian Township.
yes.
Meridian.
So they must think there's a market for those apartments to be marketable, or they wouldn't be building them.
Yep, agreed.
And quite honestly, because of those apartments in the mire, we're gonna see more food pop up in between the two.
Well, you might, yeah.
Yep.
So,
And sooner or later, somebody's gonna buy the old drive-in theater property, yeah.
so I have a friend who just looked at renting one of those apartments, and if you wanna talk about affordable housing, that ain't it.
Oh, they're not affordable?
Oh, no.
Something like $1,500 a month.
They got upland.
Well, that,
You got upland, you know you're paying.
that would be affordable in East Lansing's terminology. Did you see what they're proposing?
My finances and your finances are completely different.
No, it's just that we're willing to spend money differently, that's all.
Okay. Alright, so next item.
Next
So
item.
this does bring us to that Webster corridor, which also includes Main Street, of course. Calling it Bath Village here. There's some older and more historic development in that area. There is the Main Street, which has that small downtown-ish stretch. Access and traffic could be concerns if development takes off. Main Street in particular is a local road, it's kind of off the beaten track.
Yep.
And then here you have mixed zoning, but HDD, the high-density development, dominates here with D closer to I-69, and I'll show you what that looks like in a minute. Here you can see the dark blue is the HDD, and then the D is to the north and south of it. You've got some public land as well, and then when you get west of it, there is some medium-density residential zoning there, but then it goes to low-density pretty quickly to the west, and then to the east it goes straight to rural once you get past it. And then again, you've got D, which has commercial and residential potential down by the interchange at Webster. So one question here, major question is, what do we want for Main Street? What should this be in the future, ideally? Well, I had a couple slides in here just to kind of show some kind of almost like visual preference kind of stuff. What are we thinking in terms of scale? 1 story, 3 stories, 2 stories? What kind of thing would you like to see? Let's say somebody actually did come in there and take a chunk of it and look to redevelop it. What would we be looking to see? What would we hope for?
Barnuminium on Right Properties LLC.
Well, I think without public water, you've got a real development hurdle to go
That
over.
is a huge development hurdle, sure.
And we see that with the fourplex that was just built, and he wanted to build another fourplex, and I think the health department said, oh, I don't know why their reasoning was, but something to do with water. So I guess my concern would be how much public money do you wanna put into that area to make it developable? Because I don't think anybody's gonna come in there and put water down that area without public money.
Sure.
There's too many people that already have a functioning well. They've had to drill a new well within the last decade.
Why is that, John?
Because of the drop in water level and the pollution.
So we talk, what's the realistic cost in putting public water down Main Street?
I honestly don't know. It's
We
gotta
always
be
talk about it's too
significant.
expensive.
We-
Coming from.
We worked up that number a while back. There was some development interest that necessitated a review of it, and it depends, but, but I wanna, the number we were getting back was somewhere in the neighborhood, give or take a couple $100,000, around like 1.2 million.
Yeah, I mean, that sounds like a water project
Yeah.
to me. I mean, it depends a little bit on where it's coming from. I don't know exactly.
There's 2 sources, you could either gain it from, right now it's at, Clark and Webster, and you could
Okay.
take it down Clark and up Main all the way, or you could grab it from the school and then kind of do, through a series of easements, hopefully not eminent domain, bring a path, as the crow flies directly to where you need it.
Sure. It's not that far, really.
It's not, but I mean, that, we're talking a couple thousand feet, but still, I mean, we're 1.2 mil. Kind of the engineering challenge, and John spoke to some of it, is with sewer, there are, regulatory, avenues that municipalities can take to compel landowners to hook into sewer. Water's not the same. So if somebody
Correct.
has a well and you build a water line down the road, you can't compel them to hook into water. The problem with not having that regulatory ability to do so and then establishing water is you don't keep your flows high enough to maintain the system.
Right.
So in the early days, you would have to have the fire hydrants flushed on a regular basis. So there are financial and practical difficulties. But I think the question before us tonight is like, in a perfect world, like, don't, ignore everything I just said, like, what do you wanna see? No, I think that's the question though, like, we could get there, every challenge has an engineering solution,
Yep.
and guys, some billionaire could move to town and solve all this for us, okay? It happened in Fenton, okay, his name's Hagerman, Kate might be related.
Probably.
There's also just the cost benefit might pencil out if you had the right thing
Yeah.
being proposed, you know, you could actually be able to see, all right, here's the cost estimate that we have, here's the return that we have over, let's say, a 10-year period, and it's looking pretty good.
Yeah,
There could
so-
be something that drives it like that.
So, again, just to like put some stuff out there, what I see from my novice perspective on Main Street is I see a typical disinvested Midwestern town, used to have a railroad went away,
Yes, yes,
economic activity crumbled,
yes.
decades of disinvestment, but now I also see like a fourplex is going up, people are moving into the diner, and I'm, Karen was like, I'm a glass half full guy, like, I'm like, oh yeah, well, there's a couple things going on, like, all hope's not for naught. So, let's just assume a couple things. Bath is gonna continue to grow. Fair. Growth pressure is coming from the south and working its way north. In the next 20 years, like, is it out of the realm of like possibility that Main Street sees some kind of like economic injection of interest? Like, I don't think so. Like, I think it's possible. And so with that being said, the planner side of things on the built environment would say buildings at the frontage of the previously established buildings, on-street parking, pedestrian scale lighting, trees in the tree lawn, all those features.
Would there be backstreet parking too?
And backstreet parking's great.
Better.
Well, I also think though, Miles, you gotta look at return on investment. And if you're talking about putting $1.2 million into water so that you can develop that area, a better investment would be to put $1.2 million into water on the Saginaw Road area where there's low-density residential in terms of the number of buildings and taxable value that you could recoup on your investment.
I don't disagree, but I think I don't disagree, but I'm trying to hone in on 20 years in the future, Main Street, we wanna see commercial, we wanna incentivize residential, we wanna incentivize a mix.
Next.
I think, you know, I agree with Miles is saying, we need not just 20, 30 or 40 years of the future, what do we want that area to look like?
Yeah, and I just heard
You're
mix.
you're gonna tear down that whole industrial place that looks like crap down there right now and start with something new. What do we want there?
It's a
It
good
may not
point,
happen
Ray.
for 30 years, but we've gotta plan that way now. If we don't plan that way now, it's not gonna happen ever.
Well, that's,
So I got two mixes on the board, which is what it is, you know, kind of moving in the, so what other,
So far, it's mixed right now,
yeah, it's kind of mixed.
yeah, it
and it's
is.
high density.
And I think part of what I'm trying to go for with the images here is you've got these buildings that are a little more standalone, and then you've got this thing that's more of a Main Street.
Yeah,
street.
density.
You know, ultimately, what would you wanna strive for if you had a choice?
Right
Would you
now,
want the standalones next to each other, or would you want the more cohesive?
I think it should be a more cohesive one. Look at other downtown areas in small towns, it looks more like a cohesive thing, not individual buildings.
Yes, you're
Go to
right.
Leslie and drive through Leslie, what's that look like?
It looks like the number one up there.
Yeah,
Yeah,
So does Mason.
and Leslie's not as big as we are. Or I don't know what the
I
population is.
kinda like the Wild West look though.
But honestly, that's because those buildings were built that way originally. Bath wasn't built that way originally.
no,
Right, but now we have a chance to do it, maybe.
Well, I think if the object is, if the objective is something that's closer to number one, our zoning currently wouldn't allow for that, as is the case in almost every community, which is why you don't see that anymore.
Sure.
right.
So if that's a thing, you know, that's something that can be an action item as a result of this plan. But is the next follow-up question then, do we preclude the development of 6, particularly on Main Street, or do we allow
Isn't that what kind of the new development is, kind of like 6?
it? 6 is
Kinda
closer,
like
yeah.
that.
It depends on what you're
downtown
trying
It's
to
all right.
achieve, yeah.
Okay, so what I'm hearing then is, an action item would be, you know, take a look at the zoning and allow for one to exist if someone desired, because right now, even if you desired, you couldn't do it. But that doesn't preclude the establishment of number 6.
No,
Okay.
Which would they could take down a few of them buildings like we've talked in the past.
Developers do that.
oh yeah, they do that all the
Couple
time,
Vacant parcels, bulldoze, build something new,
yep,
Sure.
happens all the time.
yep. I would say 1 and 3 would be, if I was gonna do downtown redesign, would be my preference, or something similar.
Okay. Well, that's good actionable information.
Yeah, I mean, I had some images for residential here as well, kind of just trying to gauge the scale that, you know, we are thinking about, because, you know, right now, there's a fair amount that can be done there, just sort of a matter of, you know, I guess, what would you prefer, what would you hope for? You get a little bit of, you few more fourplexes, let's say. And then maybe somebody wants to do something a little more than a fourplex, kind of, what would you hope for?
Would we be considering what's available there lot-wise right now then?
You might have to combine a few or something like
Yeah,
that.
you'd have to do some property combining.
Well, like, even for example, of like the steel place that's on Main Street, I mean, if somebody were to come in and demo that place, you could get a 16-unit townhome on that parcel, no problem,
Oh, yeah.
With health department approval?
With water.
with water. Without health department approval, if I was a developer, and not giving any free advice to any developers out there listening, I would split that parcel and I would put 4 units on Main, 4 on, what is that, Walnut?
Yes.
Shared parking in the middle.
Mm-hmm. Be nice.
But that's an 8-plex, you would get it served 2 different well applications, shared
Yeah.
parking, 8 units, no problem.
Yeah.
So it's doable, but to the questions, like, I don't know, Joey, they look, so number 1 is 3 stories, it's all attached, I mean, that looks like mini units on number 1, and then number 6 is getting more to that cottage style housing. A little bit like a shared
Yeah, it's
courtyard.
kind of a shared courtyard, yeah.
What do you guys think?
Pretty sure everyone in Bath would say, we'll take any one of them over what's there.
Yeah, yeah, I would
I
say
feel
so.
like housing style is, it's trendy, it goes through phases, so you certainly couldn't plan for what we would want in 20 years from an aesthetic point of view, but functionally, they all look about the same.
Okay, so, but from a unit count, we're open, is what I'm hearing then. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. From a height perspective, we're limited to 3 stories, even
Yes.
20 years from now, we think.
Oh, yeah.
Why?
You don't have a
Ladder
ladder
trucks.
truck.
Ladder trucks.
I thought we're buying all new,
Do you think,
Trucks.
do you think
Not
in
a
20
ladder
years we'll
truck.
have a ladder truck?
No.
oh, yeah, absolutely.
So, you know,
Especially if you
regular
build
truck money.
4-story homes or high rises.
I think, I don't know. Ladder trucks are expensive, I don't think
But
they're gonna
we
be
can
cheap.
develop an agreement with East Lansing, they got a ladder truck right on
That's true,
Abbott or Chandler, yeah.
that's true.
It's actually on them.
Yeah, but, yeah. Okay, let's move on.
Okay, cool, great.
I mean, the other question I had about that area, I guess, is, I gather there was a DDA or something?
Yes, there was, yes.
And not anymore though, right?
Correct.
Yeah, some trustee ruined it all.
So I guess I just think about, in terms of the public realm there, without any kind of TIF authority, you're basically working with whatever developer comes in and kind of doing it on a project-by-project basis.
Correct.
Instead of trying to do some tax capture over time and then do it all, you
You're
know,
correct.
as a singular thing. Okay.
Put this area down here too, we need to decide, we want this to be residential, commercial, or a combination.
Well, what I heard at least as it pertains to Main Street was, I heard a couple mixed. Did you have a?
Mix is fine, we just need to decide what it's gonna be though.
So, I mean, going back to the tip, right, so, I mean, downtown development authority is just one mechanism, right? Aren't there corridor development authorities
Yes,
that
there
could
are.
be
Mhm.
looked into?
There
I mean,
a more targeted way.
Yeah.
There's been previous conversation about thinking about a Webster corridor
Yes.
development authority, whatever it's
Yes.
called.
Yeah, there was.
And I haven't heard much discussion about that, whether or not that would be something that would be promoting of development or not.
I mean, I think any organizational thinking of like how this area builds out and is targeted is always promotional towards the development spectrum of things. And I think we brought up the corridor one too when we had our economic development discussion, so if a DDA is like politically untenable in Bath Township, which it seems politically tenuous in recent history, and I get that, maybe a corridor is like, corridor authority is a soft launch way to consider doing some thinking outside of a project-by-project basis. But there has to be buy-in from leadership, and that's all.
I mean, the DDA site that was in Bath became a political entity, and that's what
Yes.
was its downfall.
Yeah.
But the players involved in that have since moved on to better things. And so, I mean, I don't know if that's outside the realm of possibility.
Agreed. I mean, at a high level, like, of course, takeaway, because that's what, you know, I think you guys are after, I think some kind of statement about organizational thinking on how this builds out on a scale greater than a parcel by parcel basis is probably needed.
Sure.
Yeah, that's a good point, Miles, thank you. You know, let's move on.
Okay.
Alright, and that was actually our last topic, so, just a little preview of the future. I stopped putting months after June just because, I don't know, there might be some more adjustments to make. The 63-day comment period all depends on when it starts to get to when it ends. So, our next discussion will be on future land use. We'll be looking at the map in a great deal of detail. So that'll be our April discussion. And, we'll be getting into implementation in May. We'll be receiving a bunch of draft material along the way, for your review. And, we'll be looking to try to pull that draft all together for your review over the summer. And it's a matter of refining it until we get it where you want it, and then we move forward from there. That is it for us.
Can we get, don't forget, we gotta close the meeting of the whole now.
Yeah.
Before we move on.
Yep,
Move to close the meeting of the whole.
second,
Support.
thank you. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Hearing none, meeting's closed.
Does anyone need this back?
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thank you very much for coming.
Sure, yeah, thanks for having us.
That was great.
Good to see you all.
Yep, great. Hope you have a safe trip back.
We'll do our best.
Okay, Jason had a topic about data centers, right?
Yeah, I just wanted to bring this up, find out where we are with scheduling some conversations about this, and if there's some other things that, you know, if I can do some work ahead of time to, you know, some draft language, I'm happy to do that.
No, I think that'd be great. I mean, we're definitely on the planning staff side. Maybe I'll reach out to you tomorrow and try to set up a time just to strategize this topic. Admittedly, just because of the comp plan, I guess I feel bad on this topic because we have been overwhelmed with a couple of things going on. Maybe overwhelmed's a strong word. But we got the Chandler Road project that's coming up, that went out to bid last week, and we'll start seeing bids come in on Thursday. A part of that's been the easement acquisition. I'm sure, like, if any of you guys have been through that process, like, it's
Oh, yeah.
not easy. So that's been taking up a lot of bandwidth. We also have two major construction projects, the gas station and the Kessler 40 unit site. They're in their construction review, so we've been on the phone with the township engineer, too much for my liking lately. But that's been really taking up our bandwidth. But I'll reach out, let's get a strategy together. We did sit in on a meeting, Mark Craner came, Commissioner Craner came too, and sat in on it with us. My high level takeaway from that meeting, she said it depends like 100 times. So one thing is the academic research on the subject has been kind of all over the place from what we've seen. There's gearing up and there's a lot of it coming out, but then on the ordinance side, like local municipalities passing ordinances, we haven't seen a ton of that come up yet, and that's something, we've been waiting for that to trip and see what other people produce so we can copy suit. Even our previous planning intern, Bobby, went to a community where they got hit with an application for a data center, and then their follow-up action was immediate year-long moratorium. But we're in touch with Bobby, we're like, Bobby, you took the fall, and I think you guys are actually working with that community as well, so, shout out to Giffords over there.
Among many others.
Well, I mean, I mean, based on cursory, research myself, I mean, there's a lot of resources out there. MSU has a bunch of resources. I think some basic decision-making on our part in terms of how do we define this? How do we define it out of light industrial so that we can pigeonhole it into its own area?
Agreed.
Do we restrict it to, we can't disallow it from any part of our township, but do we restrict it to high density development and also the development district? Those are some low hanging fruits for us to do.
Yeah, just put it somewhere.
And so we can write in the definitions into the high density development district, whatever that area. And then, what are our performance expectations, right? And so, there's plenty of research out there on, what are the things that are most bothersome. So one is water, right? And I would imagine that Brett would be a great resource to think about, how we word, our expectations on water usage. The other is the electrical infrastructure, and, to what extent can we put some expectations there? So, in as much as we talked about aligning it to our comprehensive plan, I mean, I think that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
But I think just putting some words on paper, some, suggested edits, just to make it a thing where we have nothing in our language on it.
Yeah.
I think makes a lot of sense. And then we'll do what we do best in terms of noodle on the details of it for months and months.
Yeah, I agree with that. I'll reach it, like I said, Karen's got some to add, but I just think I'll probably reach out to Jason, establish some kind of plan.
Now Mason's doing something right now, they're involved in something. Cause they've had a request and they changed their ordinance, they deleted something to make it better, I don't know exactly what's going on down there. But
that.
might check with Mason, see what they do.
Agreed.
Clinton County is, I'm hearing from a couple different commissioners on, they're chomping on the bit to get something put in place.
Yeah, even if anyone's got access to a draft ordinance, like if Clinton County's got something drafted that's been publicly shared, email it out.
I work with Mason, I could send you their draft.
That'd be great.
I think an area, if I'm permitted to weigh in on
Go ahead,
this,
Karen.
I was really interested to hear what your discussion would be on this topic. And something I think I haven't seen in some time, especially my time as superintendent, would be a joint meeting of the board and this body. To have a conversation about where the board is and where you guys are at on this topic, and walk through some of those discussions together about where, how, if permitted, in what shape or form. And I think that would be a great crossover for both bodies that function, I believe, at a really high level here, well at the township, to come together and have that discussion together for the benefit of our community. So I'm interested in this topic myself. I know it's something that Miles and I have discussed. Something we share articles about and are watching happen across the area. And to be in a place of power instead of being reactive, because that is what I see my fellow managers doing, is getting hit hard with a request, and then trying to just react to it, almost from a place of ignorance, for the lack of a better term. So I would love for us to have that discussion as those two bodies coming together, and really putting some thought into it on behalf of our people.
Yeah, the only thing I would suggest is, bringing to that meeting concrete things that, a municipality could do to protect themselves.
The actions,
Because I would hate to have us all come together and just have a theoretical conversation about, taxes, we want taxes versus we want to protect our natural environment. It's like, where can we meet in the middle?
Yeah,
Like,
I agree, and I'm fairly sure that some of the partners that we work with, Gibbs Webster, LEAP,
Legal.
would all have some options that could weigh in on, to bring some education to the table, as well as, just everybody's thoughts and feelings of what they're seeing going on in our area or in the state, so. I would appreciate that. Thank you.
All right, so I kinda got my marching orders, I'll reach out, we'll get a game plan together. That'd be great, I appreciate it.
Might wanna consider putting one on Drumhiller Road, and then you could have the, people pave and put water and sewer down Drumhiller, and they could even get a permit for one of those small nuclear plants so they could generate their own power right on site.
We don't have to worry about all the
Your
spoils from the
brilliance
highway.
just amazes me. I love it.
I mean, it could be just a package setup.
Don't encourage him.
And Drumheller gets paid.
Yeah, and gets water and sewer.
Chair, any
Go ahead.
question?
Go ahead.
So, do we have numbers on water capacity as far as what we can pull from the system? I mean, I'm not talking well. And we're talking about putting these in areas that they have water service, right?
Right,
And also power.
correct.
I mean, these
Well,
are the
I can't
two
address
things that you're
power.
gonna deal with.
I know we had some issues, several years ago when we did, the expansion of the, little, retirement community there on Park Lake Road with hydrant capacity. And, we fell kind of marginally short of having the sufficient capacity for long-term firefighting. And the main through there is larger than the main that runs up to the school. The main at the school actually is not a main, it's a deadhead line. So, and I don't remember the size of that. Do you remember the size of that? I think it was either a 4 or a 6 inch, I think. It wasn't very big.
But that's something BWL owns the system, and they
Yes.
would have those numbers.
Yeah, you'd have to get
That's what
that.
I'm saying, we kinda need to know what our capacity to provide water. So
I can
it
ask-
doesn't
I-
create a, decrease in pressure in the system.
That's a great point, that's something I
Yeah.
can ask Calvin before
Same
we
thing
had
with
some kind
power.
of joint meeting.
Yeah,
You bring up a good point
They
about
can
power,
take
because
it there, right?
somebody's saying, well, we're just gonna take the power off the consumer's energy grid. Well, I'm not sure they've got the capacity to do that.
Yeah, right.
Well, and that's why Mason is seeing these applications, cause they have those main lines there. They also have the, in-ground fiber infrastructure. So those are key elements to the likelihood of a community seeing this kind of application.
And the other thing with those, they bring a lot of heat, so is that a problem or not? Maybe, maybe not.
Subject of conversation.
well, if they have a lot of heat, that'd be good for, roads. You could have heated roads, no ice and snow on them.
Run into the sidewalks and roads,
Sometimes. they
That's
should
like
do
Holland,
more.
Michigan.
Yep.
yeah, those
Yep.
are nice.
Amazes me they'll build something new.
So did we get enough information for you, Miles?
I'm good, I
Jason?
got my marching orders.
Good, okay. We don't have any new business, I take it?
None.
Okay. So do you have this report from the planner about taxable value?
Yeah, it's got something real quick, and it's been a long meeting, so I won't dive into it too deep, but, for the planning commissioner's convenience, we did just, as we're talking about the comprehensive plan and really big picture ideas, in your packet tonight, if you didn't get to take a look, is just kind of some trends we're seeing on the taxable value, in the township over time. This is a common metric that the planning industry likes to use to see, hey, are we doing a good job? And by good job, I mean, are we stabilizing and building out the tax base? Largely across Bath Township, as you can see, numbers are going up over time, so, all things controlled, the township is moving, at least from a tax base perspective, in a positive direction. So, dive into these numbers more. If you have any questions, let me know. I mean, a lot of this is interesting. I will admit the assessor puts a lot of this stuff together, so I'll answer what I can, but I might have to, refer you to her if your questions get a little too detailed.
I hear our assessor is retiring.
She is retiring. She's announced her retirement. I think they spoke, did you guys speak about that at the board level?
Yeah, she's retiring at the end of the year.
Okay, I just didn't wanna misstate anything. Yeah. So,
That information is all in your packet, so if you wanna know the actual amounts, just multiply by the villages.
and then, the last thing I'll say, Chair, is, just kinda, okay, I don't know what's going on now. just kind of an update on some statements I made in the past. We were slow out of the gate for zoning and building permits. I think now that we're seeing our first 60-degree days, people are awake and active, and we have had a flood of permits on both departments this week, so just kinda wanted to give an update about kinda what we're seeing in the permit world.
What's the word on the gas station?
They are gonna break ground this spring, according to them.
Yep.
All right, thank you, Chair.
Oh, you're welcome. Any public comment? Anybody want to make any further? Okay. Board of Trustees?
I keep doing this.
We
It keeps going.
approved the, temporary mobile living quarters ordinance, after, I had 3 meetings ago.
Mm-hmm, yep.
On the agenda 3 times, and then that was approved at our last meeting. I don't know, I think that's the most relevant to the planning commission. I didn't look back at my minutes. Off the top of my head, we're still going through the process of trying to explore some revenue options. But we haven't really made much headway there, honestly, yet.
Okay. Anybody got any more comments they want to make? Jason,
I'm good,
you're good? No?
I don't know, thanks for the planning commission for all their hard work in these packets, and then also for the availability for questions. I greatly appreciate that.
Thank you, George.
I guess I can share that at the last meeting, since we did spend quite a bit of time talking about housing today, there was a potential application for a pilot housing project on
Oh, yeah.
Tower Avenue.
Yep.
We actually spent quite a bit of time talking about it at the last meeting, and we really just asked for some more information. We didn't indicate feelings one way or the other. But, speaking about housing and housing options, that is something that has, started with some interest. Is everybody familiar with what that is? I was not before the meeting, but it is.
It's not either, yeah,
Yeah.
listen, Dad.
Okay, so it's just it's sort of, I don't know, it's not really subsidized housing, but, instead of collecting property tax, the township collects a percentage of rent that is paid.
It's a payment in lieu of taxes, right?
Yes,
Right.
payment in lieu of taxes, pilot. So we had some initial, an investment company came and they have a purchase agreement on a property on Tower Avenue that's just currently a private residence. They've got a
Everybody know where Tower
preliminary plans
Avenue
for a
is?
small
Okay.
apartment
I
building.
had to look it up.
I don't know, I thought that definitely connected with our discussion of housing, but,
My concern as listening to it, that it'll just be student housing.
well, they said that you can't, it isn't open to, well, it would be open to students, but there are income requirements, so it would have to maybe be like a graduate student or something along those lines, but I did
Yeah, they
ask
termed
them.
it workforce housing.
Yeah, I did ask that question, but not very specifically,
Yeah.
So
but
it's meant,
yeah.
it's probably more targeted towards a younger worker. My son's 23, works in heavy equipment, I was thinking like that's the type of worker they'd be looking for, or older adults, maybe that were downsizing. But I think the average income was like a $55,000 income as one of the percentages, and there are percentages above and below that they target, so.
Yeah, I wouldn't even have known that that was in Bath Township, and I've been looking at these maps for 2 years now. And I just kept having to go back, are we sure? And I wasn't sure that it was in Bath School District, but it is, barely.
Yes,
I
yeah.
don't even think, do we ever, well, you guys wouldn't know if school buses even go over there right now, but I'm always learning a lot in this job.
problem you got, Kate, is the first southern part of Tower is actually in Hazlet.
Well, I
It's
think
Meridian Town.
East Lansing,
East Lansing
but
School
I-
District there.
Yeah.
And then it crosses back over and is Bath at the north side of that. But again,
Right.
if there were some sort of connecting road back toward Bath, that would make that whole
No, no.
corridor much different, I think.
the only
I think that is probably one place that would really take off, in terms of economic development, is if that location were connected to the area where it's actually in the school district.
Oh, if you had a connection between Chandler Road and Tower Avenue
Or
directly.
Tower and Park Lake Road, or
State
Tower
Road.
and State
State
Road, or
Road.
something along
Isn't there a
those
single
lines.
property owner that would make all those connections if we bought them out?
Yeah, there is, that's true.
That's a possibility,
But
yes.
remember, again, the reason that that's a south farm is because of a large vein of home muck, not ideal soil type to build a road over.
Right,
So there would be engineering challenges, which I
Yes.
think is why maybe a road wasn't built there in the past.
Dig a lake and put a ferry.
Everything can be engineered its way out of.
yeah, there's always a way out of it, yeah.
It's just what's the barrier to entry?
That area is
I
served
just wanted to
by-
bring that up, I wasn't trying to go.
But it did get
Crazy.
me thinking about what is the reality that those kids would actually go to Bath schools, cause, that would be an influx of students, potentially, if there were young families in there, but,
School
in
of
the school of
choice.
choice climate, East Lansing schools are right there.
Right.
so
I think they even have a
make it-
headquarters building, East Lansing Schools does, on Tower Road.
Yeah. But anyway, so that discussion is happening and is, I believe, gonna continue at our next meeting.
And as I recall it, the pilot only affects the governing body, which would be Bass taxes, does not affect any of the other taxes. Is that,
Yeah,
Is that
they're
not
gonna
correct?
bring us that information at our next meeting.
I don't know, we're still looking into how it would impact in the numbers that would, numbers from the developer, numbers from our assessor, so we're working to gather information.
yeah, well, the treasurer should be able to tell us that.
I think the treasurer's done a lot of research in the last week.
I'm sure she has.
So, maybe one of the questions we can answer, but, or legal counsel could answer for us, but yeah, we're working towards gathering all that information.
Anybody got anything else? I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Second?
Support?
Thank you. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? No, hearing none, we're